Hello, everybody. What's up? How's it going? It's me. Oh, this is the wrong video. Hello there. How's it going? Yep. So, I'm mainly doing a stream today. I haven't done one in a while, I know, but I decided to do one today. By the way, like, feel free to tell me about the mic, because, like, this is the first time I'm using this mic for streaming, so I don't know how it's going to turn out. So, just, like, feel free to comment on that if you want to. But anyway, I'm gonna be going to Momocon, as the banner says, and I wanted to do like a little stream, just as sort of, excuse me, I wanted to do a stream as sort of like an advertisement for that, just that I'm going to Momocon, not getting featured there. Third year in a row, they still won't feature me. How long is it gonna take? How much of myself do I have to give? I'll do anything, Momocon, please. But yeah, so I just thought that, a fun way to advertise this to people who might be going is just to do a nice little stream looking at some videos that I have a problem with that I don't really like. What I'm gonna for these videos I'm gonna be watching. I don't want to do like any personal attacks on the creators or anything like that. Even if well, by personal attacks I mean like, oh, I hate you as a person. You're the worst person. I hate you because of this review. Uh, Personal in that sense, but I just like I wanted to make a video, well, not a video. I wanted to do a live stream talking about some reviews that I find objectionable. Not exactly all of these are seen as objectionable by most people. These are just ones I've picked up in the wild that I don't really like, and I haven't heard people talk about them, so I thought that it would be fun to talk about them. And also, I'm going to talk about one that was sort of the basis for a video I did a while ago. So that should be fun. Let's see what chat's saying. Yeah, Mike sounds good. Okay. Does bro even like anything? Yes, I do. If you checked out my recent, no, shameless plug. If you checked out my recent Ralph Bakshi video, it's majority positive. Most of it is pretty positive, I'd say. And speaking of Ralph Bakshi, that's what most of these videos are going to be stuff that I've actually covered on my channel before. So this first one is a video by a creator called Bionic Pig, who did a video on Coonskin. So a lot of the time when I'm making videos, I'll occasionally like see reviews for media that I'm talking about because I look up a lot of clips and whatnot for the video. So a lot of the time during the process, or even like while I'm researching, I can find these reviews that come up in my recommended. And this one, I really don't like this one. I think it's pretty bad. Hi, how are you? I've been a fan a long time now. Is it okay if I make fan art for you? Yeah, bro. It's always cool. It's another reason why I'm showing my face right now is because for Momocon people don't really know my face since I don't really show it. So here it is. This is what I look like. Red Letter Media's prequel reviews are the most overrated reviews and made it cool to hate George Lucas. Okay, then that's an interesting take. It's been a while since I've like looked at the Red Letter Media videos, so I would not be able to comment on those. I remember them being pretty good. So, yeah. But anyway, so I'm going to be looking at these videos. First one is a review of Coonskin by Bionic Pig. I've never really liked Bionic Pig that much as a reviewer, to be honest. I don't really watch his videos. They don't really appeal to me. But this one in particular did not appeal to me. So let's get into this. Let's do some leafy shit. Let's play that shit. All right.
Hello everyone, before we start this video, I wanted to mention that
No, merch plug, get away from me.
Throughout my time on YouTube, I've stumbled upon my fair share of controversial movies and shows.
I'm sure you have. I have as well. I've stumbled upon many a controversial film before.
To be honest, especially nowadays, it's extremely common for shows and movies to have some sort of controversy here and there.
I mean, I guess so. It's a pretty vague statement. I mean, what do you mean by like controversy here and there? Like, if you so much as include, if you're doing an animated movie, you could do basically anything and get a controversy for it, just because of like the crowd that goes like, this kids movie has blood or gay, or it has the gays. It has gays kissing. I don't want to see that.
But I do not think anything or anyone comes close to to the crazy movies created by Ralph Bakshi. Now, you
I mean,
guys
yeah,
might have heard
that's true. He is the progenitor, the originator of being controversial with animated films, basically.
of his more famous one, the one that has been deemed like one of the biggest controversial movies of all time, which is called Fritz the Cat.
Love that text without a border on it. That looks really good. That looks really clean.
But out of his whole catalog, he actually has a decent amount of controversial type movies. There was one that was a little bit more on the nose, one that really jumped out at me. I'm not really sure what exactly jumped out.
Oh, jeez. That PNG, that has so much crust on it. I can count the pixels individually on that shit. Come on, man. Didn't have the time to, like, find a higher quality poster. Jesus.
At me, but I don't know. You be the judge. Now, the reason this movie's so interesting to me is obviously you look at the picture and think, oh, pure racism.
Well, I mean, I couldn't really tell just because, you know, it was too grainy. It was too pixely. You fucking pull that out of the mud? Jesus Christ, dude. Like, get a better image if you're gonna, like, show something that's important visually.
That's what this director was all about. You know, he's a racist, blah, blah, blah. But what really makes this crazy is the fact that Ralph Bakshi is actually someone who
Ralph Bakshi. Mr. Bakshi.
believes that this movie, this movie right here, was actually against racism. And
I hate the way that he says that, too. Like, he's so in disbelief of it. Like, the person who's saying that has to be delusional. Like, this person actually has the audacity. They actually think that this is not racist? What? What?
and this
Like, could you sound more condescending? I hate when people sound incredibly condescending a lot of the time in videos. That's something I try not to do. I mean, like, I get that I come off as harsh and whatever, and I give a lot of criticism. Some people find me nitpicky, but I try not to come off condescending, because that really that always fucking twists me up inside whenever I'm watching a video, or it just sounds so fucking, you know what I mean?
This movie supposedly has plenty of messages.
Supposedly. Some would say. Either that or he hasn't watched the video, he hasn't watched the movie before making this video.
About how people are marginalized and how that's bad. Now, I'm going to be the first to say this movie has some of the most...
Well, I wouldn't just say marginalized. Like, there's way more commentary in Coonskin than that. It's way more complex than that, to be honest. I feel like that's really big oversimplification.
grotesque imagery when it comes to racism I've ever seen in a movie. But
Yes, that is the point. It's supposed to have racist caricatures. Well, not racist. Well, yeah, it's supposed to be like a mockery of those caricatures. I'll go into detail as the video goes on. If you haven't like seen my video where I discuss the film already.
again, what makes this so strange is he chose this extremely shocking imagery, but is telling everyone, and has said this to this day, that the messages in this movie were opposite of what it looks like.
Yeah, okay, so since he brought up like the importance of the imagery, like, oh, how could he choose something so shocking, something so vulgar? The entire point of the film is that black people and many other minority groups in the film are depicted the way that America has viewed them. So it's like, this was made in the 70s, civil rights movement had just happened. There was still a lot of resentment and discrimination and sort of lesser so than before, obviously, but it still very much existed, racism. And it had been a problem for multiple decades, and since the civil rights movement had happened, there had been a large push of people who thought, oh, you know, we've done it, we have helped everyone, we have helped the blacks, racism over. Or like they felt like they were more justified in looking away from past racism, like they didn't have to acknowledge it. Coonskin is basically taking all of those bad stereotypes, all those bad depictions that were given to minorities over the years, and putting it directly into the viewers' faces. It's forcing them to like acknowledge, understand, and look at the shit that they've done. It's basically mocking blackface. It's mocking racism. It's something that's like it's supposed to get white viewers uncomfortable. It's supposed to force them to look at what they have done, look at how they've depicted minorities over the years, and see just how disgusting it really is, while also like telling a story that's transcribing the black experience. It's something that talks about all of the oppressive groups against black people, the ones that wanted to get them down, the ones that would try and make them turn on each other, the ones that like fucking preach certain values, but then go back behind their backs to preach others. Those sorts of things. Like it's something that's very well communicated within the story, and there's a big message about like the struggle of Black Americans to keep their integrity in the face of these like oppressive forces that would try to pit them against each other or put them in working into drug rings or that sort of thing. It's a very multifaceted film that has a lot to say about a lot of different groups, and it simultaneously critiques Black culture while defending it and showing the beauty of it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
And that just sounds completely insane to me, and that's why I wanted to talk about this movie. Now, another interesting part about this movie is the fact that it's really well animated. Like, everything.
Yeah, Coonskin was definitely like Bakshi's best animated film at the time when it came to the actual visuals. Gas, but JS stream. Yes, we are doing that. Can someone explain what is media literacy? I am very uneducated in that term. I don't know if that's like ironic or if they don't know what the term media literacy means, but either way, funny.
In this is really stylized. Throughout the movie, there's a heavy
Yes.
combination of live action and animation, and the animation is very well done, and the live action scenes are well done as well. Honestly, Ralph Bakshi as just a director.
I also don't like the way that he sounds. Like, no, not like the voice sense. I just mean that when he's recording, he doesn't sound confident in what he's saying. It sounds like the first time that he's saying these words, and he doesn't really understand how he's supposed to say them. So he just goes about in a very like, uh, what's the word to use? Sort of computerized, artificial sort of way that doesn't feel genuine. It feels kind of stumbly and unconfident, and I hate when reviewers sound like that.
In general, does a pretty good job, especially when it comes to the animation. But
Yes.
boy, the amount of racist imagery in this movie really makes you feel queasy.
Yeah, that's the point. You're supposed to feel nauseous at it. It's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. It's something that's supposed to like challenge your preconceptions, force you to face what you otherwise wouldn't want to look at. Because a lot of people, when it comes to like the racist imagery that's existed for multiple decades, they don't want to talk about that. They'd rather shove it off into another room. They'd rather forget that it ever happened. But we have to acknowledge, we have to look at our past to be able to learn from it and better ourselves in the future. We need to know how bad it is. The fact that you are repulsed by this imagery that is being shown, that's supposed to depict how Black people are viewed by America, that's the point. It's getting its message across perfectly to you, but you just don't seem to understand that's what it's doing.
There are moments in this movie it was honestly just hard to get through.
Yes. Again, very much the point.
You really could just be playing racial stereotype bingo with this movie and get bingo pretty quick. It really feels like they just had a checklist of every racist stereotype and went down the line and made sure that they checked off every single one. So the movie's plot, it starts out as a live action situation. It's about two men played by Charles Gordon's Preacher Man and Barry White's.
I don't think like the actual main characters are very stereotypical though. I mean, they do embody certain stereotypes, I guess. But, you know, they're very much their own characters. Like Brother Rabbit, he's quick-witted, he's fast, he's cunning. You know, they embody their storybook counterparts much better than what happened in the Disney's version, Song of the South, which this movie is like a direct parody, a direct satire, a direct answer to with their glamorization of Black plantation workers and shit, as many people know by now, as it's infamously known.
Samson, and they're getting ready to free a comrade from jail. And the companion, played by Miami Vice's Philip Michael Thomas, sits against the prison wall.
I also hate that thing where so many like reviewers just list off a bunch of the things that other actors have been in. Like, I just feel like it's redundant and unnecessary and doesn't really do much. Like, it feels like a bygone thing from the 80s where people didn't really know what other people played in and they couldn't really look it up. So others would just be like, you might have recognized this person in this movie. But, like, it's completely superfluous now. We understand where they come from. Unless you want to make a point with, like, I don't know, the roles that they've played in the past and how it relates to this, or generally how it stacks up to their other performances. I don't really feel the need to mention that sort of thing.
With another prisoner, played by Scatman Crothers. And as they are waiting for their getaway vehicle...
Every time I hear the word Scatman, I'm always just immediately put off just because of the different connotation that the internet has given that word, you know what I mean?
They have some time to kill. So Crothers' character tells him a tale about a similar band that's...
Oh, what's this? Sorry. Oof. Accidentally opened something. Let's see. This strikes me as being similar to Blazing Saddles, in as far as the point being just how idiotic racism is, so they went over the top with it on purpose. Yes, that is definitely one of the major facets of it. There's also the point of how, like, every villain in the film is a different oppressor of the black community, and they're never the same. You know, they've got the black nationalist preacher who preaches to kill whites but is actually on their payroll. There's the super racist cop who also, like, works with black gangs and has some suppressed, like, gay feelings that he takes out as harming gay people. You've got the mafia, who are depicted as, like, these really grotesque evil fucking slime creatures and whatnot, who pit different black people up against each other, and have Miss America, who's like the representation of the American dream, as the referee between them. It's very blatant symbolism. It's not difficult to figure out what the movie is doing, and you would understand that if you actually watched it, you know? Like, if you try to critically engage with it. What's this? Sorry, I'm looking over chat.
Supposedly fled a brutal firefight in
I mean, they left their hometown to go to Harlem and took it over.
the neighborhood for the African American Mecca of Harlem. And instead, Brother Rabbit, Brother Bear, and Preacher Fox
Jeez, what is the quality on this video too? Like, where did you get this shit? Did you even watch the movie?
discovered to see
Yeah, I'm just saying that because, like, if you watch the movie, you would probably you would have to have a file of it, you know, that's higher quality than this, right?
deceitful preachers employing the promise of revolutionary politics. And
Yeah, that's one of them, at least. There's definitely more than that.
in this movie, there are cops who kill and steal, there are mafias, there are gangs.
Mhm.
It's full of drug addiction, poverty, and the American dream.
Jeez, I hate it when reviews have such. I should just say, I hate the editing of this video purely for the fact that a lot of the time he'll be saying one thing, like, you would expect him to show a certain thing, and then he just won't. He'll just let a clip play on, and it won't really show what he's trying to show. I hate that. I hate when reviewers do that. It's always so jarring for me. It always signals a lack of effort on their part that I really dislike.
Dream is set up in such a literal sense. It's just a busty white woman with long blonde hair and a gun in her vagina. Let me
Yes.
clarify. Let me rewind that a little bit. There's a gun in her vagina.
Yes, there
It's
is.
the American dream, baby. And if we just take a simple look at the three main characters and how they are designed, it's literally the racist white version of a black man. The
Yes.
caricature known throughout early media.
Yes. And that's another thing about, like, Coonskin's portrayal of black people. Like, you immediately know what it is they're referencing. You know what it is they're talking about. You understand it immediately. It's a very striking image. It's something that you're immediately going to understand where they're coming from and what they're going for.
And that caricature is actually referred to as what the title of the movie is. And an interesting thing about the title is it was originally the title and then no more.
You can say the title of the film. It's not racist just to say the name of the movie, which is Coonskin. You know, it's just a film title.
Implying that it was about how that stereotype is bad, which is ironic because that stereotype is within the movie. There's even a point in the movie where a woman explains why her man left her and her daughter.
Yes.
Just gotta check off that stereotype off the list.
Okay, that's a stupid criticism, honestly, because a lot of those, like, I mean, he's only brought up one of the multiple short interludes in between the regular story, but there are a lot of little short sections that are transcribing the African American experience. They're, like, showing different struggles that black people of the time had to go through. And, you know, while it is technically a stereotype of, you know, a black man leaving his wife and child behind, nowadays, back in, like, the 70s, over 50 years ago when this first propped up, that wasn't nearly as much of a stereotype. That didn't develop until, like, you know, the 80s, 90s. Back then, it was just, you know, an issue that actually happened. And it's a very well described issue within the film. You feel it, you understand it. And that's not even, like, he didn't even mention, like, the other sections, like a black man rummaging through trash trying to find what white people would pick up, trying to, like, find value in what they've thrown away, the little things, or the sections with Miss America where she's, like, enticing black men or revolutionaries even with her body and promises of getting to bang her, and then she just like beats them up, or he showed a little bit of it, like them throwing fire hydrants on him, and just like completely exploiting them, and even like opening themselves up literally only to shoot them. Yeah, like this is very obvious symbolism, but he's not actually talking about it. He's showing it, but he isn't really like critically engaging with it. He's not trying to analyze or pick apart what things mean. He's just looking at it from a very basic level.
And also another thing, the N-word is just spammed.
Well, yes, because most of the characters are either black or they're racist. I feel like that's a simple correlation there.
Throughout this movie, like spammed as much as it could have possibly been used in a movie, it was used. The very beginning of the movie is actually a black man singing a song called I'm the N-Man.
Yes. But did you listen to any of the other lyrics? Like I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna have to like censor it. Scatman Brothers, I'm the In-Man. There it is. So like, I'm the minstrel man, I'm the cleaning man, I'm the pole man, I'm the shoe shine man. Watch me dance. I've got the devil in me, it's the man you see. Got the devil in me, it's the man you see. Walk on, walk on, walk on. I've been waiting on the welfare line, unemployment line, the gas line since 9. Now I'm waiting on the pawn shop line. I've got the devil in me, it's the man you see. I've been shot on, pushed on, passed on, gassed on, red, white, and blued on. Now I'm waiting to turn on. Walk on, walk on. Like, how do you not understand what these lyrics mean? They should be very obvious, I think. Because, like, they're very Oh, got a super chat from B Meister. Sup, Braxton? Speaking of bad reviews, I was wondering if you saw DD6's Family Guy video. I don't know who that is. So, anyway, what I was saying is that, like, when you look at these lyrics, like, I've been shot on, pushed on, passed on, gassed on, red, white, and blued on. Like, that's very obviously describing the experience of black people who've constantly, despite their efforts to keep walking forward, to continue to search for the American dream, to be able to go above shit, that they're still, like, continually beat on and red, white, and blued on. I feel like that's a very important line there. But, like, he's not critically engaging in it. He's not looking at the actual lyrics. He's just looking at the N-word. And that's all he's seeing. That's all he's saying. He's not actually... It's actually a very good analogy for this video. What's the main problem with it is it... Any update on Clone High? I mean, I haven't watched the 3rd season. Didn't really care about it. If you're going to watch bad reviews, don't watch Svit's P5 video. You're going to lose sanity. That's like 5 hours long. We do not have that time. Just a question. Is your voice just always like this, or do you have to take a deep breath and prepare the voice and then turn on the stream? I mean, this is what I sound like. That's how I am. Did you hear Ed and Nettie is being booted from Max? Nah, that sucks, though. Sucks to hear that. Anyway, back to the video.
The more and more you...
Also, I didn't notice how he didn't say that voice was also by Scatman Crothers.
learn about this movie, the
I mean, if you're going to mention them, you might as well mention them at, like, the important bits, like when he sung that song.
more hard it gets to understand how Bakshi believes that this has a good, positive message about...
It's so hard for me to believe that there's a good message when the N-word is said so many times in this film full of racists and black people. Why would they say the N-word so much?
racism. It's just a lot to take in. You really...
It is a lot to take in, but not in a bad way at all. Like I've said, it's my favorite Bakshi film because it has a really important message that's delivered very well, very unapologetically. It's got, like, the imagery is used very effectively. It really makes you think. It really gives you, like, it really gives you pause. It really makes you, like, look at shit. It's fucking phenomenal film.
You gotta dig to find that.
You do not have to dig. You do not have to dig at all. You're going like, and he's just like, he's not actually digging in the right spot. He's trying to dig into concrete when the actual, like, shit he doesn't even have to dig is, like, right next to him. It's above ground, and he can't see it because he's too busy fucking digging at the concrete, trying to find something else, trying to find a different message than what it's actually saying.
that message, and the message is in there. I'm
It's deep in there. You gotta. I I just realized the hand motion that I'm doing. You gotta really dig in there, dig in there. Gotta find it. Ugh, so hard though.
just gonna clarify. There is technically a message in there. Everything else
Technically, if you read between the lines, it's really, really small, really hard to see.
in the movie just blinds you from even trying to find the message. He could have went about this in a completely different way, which I mean, I'm sure
What is that? How should he have gone about it in a different way? Because I think he went about it perfectly. I don't think there's a way you could have addressed something as big as the historical suppression and oppression of black people in America and forcing uncomfortable white audiences who don't really want to acknowledge racism to look at it and acknowledge it and understand it and try to analyze it than by forcing them to look at it. Force them to look at what they don't want to see because it makes them uncomfortable. And when they're uncomfortable, it makes them think, why am I uncomfortable with this? What's so shocking about it? Why don't I want to see it? It makes you raise those questions. It makes you want to critically think about it. And it helps give you a better experience of the movie because it translates the themes perfectly. It shows what you don't want to see
he just wanted the
because it
extra
makes you uncomfortable.
shock factor to really grasp people. So let's talk
Shock is definitely a factor that played into it, but there is a massive, there's tons of purpose behind why it's there.
about the production of the movie a little bit. Rolf met another great producer named Albert S. Rudy, and they instantly hit it off. And then Rolf pitched this idea to him about making a satirical adaptation of the Uncle Remus stories. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's a collection of animal stories, songs, and oral folklore collected from Southern Black Americans.
It's not a satirical version just of the stories in general, though. It's a satire specifically of Disney's version. Very important context there. It's not just satirizing black stories.
And so after he pitched that idea, they agreed to work on it and production started. And something cool that Bakshi did is he hired several black animators to work on this movie.
And female and gay. He was very, progressive in that sense. He paid black, female, and gay animators way better than basically anyone else in the industry at the time. He was a very progressive guy.
Which back then was quite a big deal because, black animators during that time really struggled greatly to find any work because studios were mainly employing whites. The film itself went through a bunch of different names. There was Harlem Days and then
Harlem Nights. Weird misconception there.
Seaskin No More.
Coonskin.
And then they finally settled on the main title of the movie. I don't necessarily know why. I assume just by the title alone, he really wanted to just hit you in the face with something.
It actually wasn't Bakshi's choice to do that. That was something that was thrust on him by the studio, or at least suggested. They said that it was more eye-catching, that it was better, so he took that from them. They were actually very on board with the film. They wanted to push it basically as far as they would allow. So they hey, instead of Harlem Nights, which was his original title for the film, they were hey, why not Coonskin No More? And then eventually just why not Coonskin? It'll draw people in. That was their original reasoning for doing it.
The main topic of the movie ended up being a blaxploitation, but that's not the only
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
stereotypes this movie actually has.
Wait, what do you mean blaxploitation is a stereotype? That's a film genre, is what blaxploitation is. Usually it was made by black people. That was the main demographic of people who made it.
Throughout this movie.
Also, Ralph Bakshi, he's someone that very much understands the racism experience just because, he grew up a poor Jewish immigrant on the streets of Brownsville, which was this very highly integrated black Jewish neighborhood. And there's this really interesting story of him as a kid where for a brief time he was in an all-black neighborhood and he had friends who were all black and he didn't like walking all the way to a white school. So one day he just asked his parents if he could go to the all-black school that was there, and they said yes. And he spent the day there, but then the police got called and they came in and took him out he was begging and screaming. He didn't want to go, but they forced him to go because they didn't want black folks. Well, they didn't want white folks getting mad that a white kid had gone to an all-black school. They didn't want there to be an uprising about that. So that was an instance where Ralph got to see an inverse of racism, racism that was directed at him specifically because he was white in an all-black space. It's very rare. That's something that's very rare. You wouldn't that sounds so hard to believe, but it's like a perfect sort of thing for a white kid to be able to understand what racism is like without being black themselves. And it gave him this massive perspective on the racism that constantly has permeated American culture, and it always stuck with him. And he wanted to do a film about it for the longest time, but he wasn't able to for a while just because of like the restraints. He had to be able to be more marketable than that. People wanted there to be some like restriction. But once he got like 2 back-to-back successful films, he was able to make Coonskin, and I definitely say it's one of his most provocative, most interesting, most angry films. Like, you can feel the anger he has for the white establishment, for white America, for all these oppressive groups that have hurt black people over the years. You can feel that in every frame of the film, and I find it very like interesting because it's a perspective that only he could have had.
It is chock full of them. I'm not gonna say it's equally stereotypical. Obviously, it's heavy-handed on the blaxploitation, but there are extreme
I think is he conflating blaxploitation with blackface?
exaggerations of white Southerners, Italians, homosexuals, and even Jewish people.
Yeah.
And the fact that Bakshi says the Jewish character was based off of a Nazi propaganda portrayal in The Eternal Jew. He really just went for it, didn't he?
I mean, I've never heard that specifically in all the research that I've done, but if he did say that, I wouldn't be surprised because, well, first of all, Bakshi himself is Jewish. His parents fled from Nazi-occupied Palestine. And secondly, when it comes to like all of the caricatures in Coonskin, all of the minority characters, not just blacks, but all the minority characters are depicted how fucking white America depicts them, or how the majority group, the white, straight sort of people, would depict them. Whereas the villains, like, Italians technically, but it's really specifically the mafia. Like, it's not just Italians as a whole.
Oh boy. Arthur Knight wrote that Seaskin is not anti-black at all, nor is it anti-Jewish, anti-Italian, anti-American, all of whom fall prey to Bakshi's wicked caricaturist's pen as intensely as any of the blacks in this movie.
Yes.
What Bakshi is against, as this filmmaker makes abundantly clear, is the cheats, the rip-off artists, the hypocrites, the phonies, the con men, and the organized criminals of this world, regardless of race, color, or creed.
Yes, that's a very, very good critique. That's very, very, yes. This is good. This is a good line. This is very insightful. The film is most critical in its portrayal of the mafia, yes. I think is this from the Wikipedia article, actually? Yeah, I think this is directly from the Wikipedia article.
So researching
Could tell you how much research he did.
a lot on what people said about this movie and just Bakshi in general. It really seemed like he wanted to make fun of everyone,
Well, it's not necessarily making fun of it. It's not necessarily about making fun of everyone. He's not making fun of black people. He's not making fun of Italians. I mean, I guess he's like directly pointing his criticism at a lot of people. And there's a lot of meaning behind each way he interprets different people. Like, he especially hated the mafia. So they're portrayed as all these sweaty, bulbous, disgusting creatures. Whereas, black people are portrayed the way they are, specifically to, like I said, make white Americans uncomfortable at the years they've depicted them the way that they have. Make them uncomfortable, force them to confront their prejudices and preconceptions and ways of thinking. And but it's not like all a monolith. You can't quite put it all under one specific section. You can't just say, oh, it's all making fun of them. Like that's a bit of a reductionist take that doesn't quite like match the scope of how differently each portrayal is meant to be viewed.
Make fun of the stereotypes of every single culture, race, or any.
Yes, he is making fun of the stereotype. That is a major part of it. He's making fun of the stereotypes. He's making fun of blackface. He's making fun of the depiction of Jews and whatnot.
Any type of person that he was talking about in the movie, because every character in this movie is just a caricature of what they would be. And like I said before, it's kind of sad because the animation is actually...
Why is it sad? This is what he was going for. This was the point. This is
actually pretty good. The art style is visually gratifying, but holy shit, it's hard to watch. There are moments where it seems like the movie kind of just...
Wow, he didn't really actually say anything about the animation, like how fluid it was, how well done the character designs were, how nice the fucking colorization was, the integration between 2D and live action, anything like that. He just said, yeah, it's good. It's visually appealing. He does, like, review animation, doesn't he?
Whiplashes you in different directions. It's
Oh, you hit the mic. You hit the mic.
very psychedelic and artsy at times.
You've played this clip before. That's another thing I hate in reviews is when they, they play long clips multiple times. Like, don't do that. Show different shit. I want to see more than, like, a little bit of shit. And also, all of these clips are really grainy and shitty. Do you even, like, he says that he watched the movie, but all I'm getting from this, like, what he's saying is that he watched a plot description of the movie and he got all his clips off of YouTube. That's what it feels like, because he hasn't actually really described the plot outside of what Wikipedia says. He hasn't, like, tried to critically engage with it at all. He's literally just looking at it specifically for the visuals. That's all he's doing, basically. He's not really engaging with anything else.
Where just things kind of mesh together and move around in weird ways. They make sense sometimes, and sometimes they don't make.
Like, this is a moment. Like, he's shown this multiple times. This is a moment where where Bakshi is, like, directly making fun of blackface by putting it unwillingly onto a character who doesn't want it put on them and having them die in a shootout while dressed in this blackface, like, costume. Like, it's very, like, this is a racist cop too. Like, it's very evocative. It's very much sending a specific message about how these stereotypes should be viewed and how bad they are.
Any sense. The mixture of live action and animation is really just all over the place sometimes, but
What do you mean all over the place?
he
It is very specific in its meaning and why it happens and when.
has his reasons for it. Like,
He has his reasons for it. Like, he can't understand what that is, like, a good summation of this video, though. Like, he just does not understand, and he's not trying to understand. He's just like, oh, he must have his reasons, I guess.
again, I think Bakshi's a really good direct, but I'm sure you can assume this movie
He's a good direct. I don't really know what that is, though. Sounds like a Star Wars creature.
caused quite a huge out.
What's what we got in the... I love the hair designs of Bear's girlfriend. His hair is so sparkly and pretty. I don't even know what we're talking about now. Am I the only one who gets irked when people put art stuff in animation qualities? Wouldn't character design be more art style than animation style? Yeah, I guess you're right, yeah. You can tell he was the kind of person this movie was made to make uncomfortable. Yes, exactly. Like, he's looking at the reaction that the film is giving him, but he's not, like, trying to understand why. He's just, like, taking the basic, oh, must be racist, must be bad. Both your review and your talking a part of this review make me want to watch it more now. Oh, you definitely should. It's a great film. It's my favorite Ralph Bakshi film. Well, actually, I guess my favorite is American Pop, but this is definitely, I'd say it's his best film. It's his best work.
Roar. It definitely did. When the film was first finished, Bakshi wanted to do a showing at the Museum of Modern Art.
Yep, he did that for all of his previous films, and he did do that for Coonskin.
However, the Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE for short, surrounded the building in a large protest led by Elaine Parker. And it just gets weirder because Larry Carter
Actually, it was led by Al Sharpton, or at least Al Sharpton was a part of it. I don't know if he was the leader of it.
which is someone who was at the showing, he said this: they were determined not to like the film. Apparently, some of their friends had read the script of the movie, and in their belief, it was detrimental to the image of blacks. The thing that is so
Yes, some people supposedly read it. Most people had not. A large majority of the people who were criticizing the film had never actually watched it. They were judging it specifically based entirely on how it looked.
baffling
Kind of like this video.
to me is that no one can understand why people are upset. Every time I see something,
Because those people actually watched the movie, whereas they did not. Their anger was entirely, like, ignorant. It was naive. It was not based on any, like, actual basis. They did not actually watch the film. They did not know what it was about. They did not know what it was saying. They didn't see anything about it other than the designs, and therefore they based their assumptions entirely on that.
someone get interviewed or have a quote about this situation, they were all just like, I don't get it. Like, what, he had a good message in the movie.
And this is another reason why I feel like I think he might not have even watched the movie, because you would have to either be the most ignorant motherfucker around, or you would just have to have not actually seen it to not get where these people are coming from when they say the film is not racist.
I don't understand why everyone's so. How do you not get why everyone was so upset. It's
How do you not get why people were not upset?
so insane to me. Don't get me wrong.
I'm just going to repeat what he says. It's so insane to me how he doesn't get this.
I understand his portrayal of the message. He wanted to
I don't think you do. I really don't think you do. I don't think you understand it at all.
give a message, but
He's not even saying what the message is. He's just like, yeah, I think he wanted to do a message. I think he said things in a way that was done for reasons.
the fact that they didn't just stop and think, guys, maybe we're going too far here.
That's fucking that's exactly why he did not do it. It was going as far as possible. That was the intention. It's supposed to be shocking. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. I've said this multiple times so far. It's something that you have to see. It's not, the message isn't going to hit nearly as hard as Bakshi wants it to if he doesn't like go full force. If he doesn't show exactly how America portrays black people. If he doesn't show exactly what's getting them down. If he doesn't show everything, the whole spectrum that makes people like it shivers in their skin. It makes them not want to look just because of the history associated with it. Yet they are the ones who perpetuated that history. They're the ones that made that. Yet they don't want to face it. And Bakshi is forcing them to.
Maybe this is a little bit too much. I don't know. Following the showing of this,
That kind of like, we need to tone it down. We can't do it that way. That's exactly what Bakshi was fighting against for his whole career. He didn't want to censor himself. He didn't want to hold back. And that's what makes so many of his films so interesting, so fun, so evocative. They need to be that way. And I feel like it's anti-art just to say, he should have not been as ambitious. He should have gone smaller.
this movie at the Paramount building in NYC, it was picketed by CORE this time. Elaine Parker spoke on the matter, stating it depicts us as slaves, hustlers, and whores, which it does.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't portray them as slaves, other than in the case where it's like there's a black man who does this whole poem. They use this poem multiple times because it's a very powerful poem, and they say it multiple times. And like at the end of this, when he says like, "I'm a natural black face, part of my race, and up my sleeve I'm holding an ace that I won't die in disgrace if I stop dancing and don't let you blow me anymore in the wind because I refuse to come." And after that, Miss America, she's just like playing a guitar and she shouts, "Help, rape, rape." And then this obvious black caricature who's trying to like rise above his caricature, he's hanged. Like, yes, they are like those sorts of shit this story. I don't really get the whores angle either. I don't know where that comes from. Hustlers. I mean, there are hustlers in the movie, but not all of the black characters are hustlers. And really, it's more like fake preachers rather than hustlers.
It is a racist film to me and very insulting. They demanded that Paramount.
She actually hadn't read. I don't think she actually watched the film at all. I think she was one of the people who had not seen the film.
Not release the film, claiming it was highly objectionable to the black community. But again, something else, it just keeps getting more interesting. The NAACP supported the film, saying it was just a difficult satire. And if you guys don't know what NAACP is, it's the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Yes.
That is just crazy to me.
That is just crazy to me.
That they actually supported this movie. So I want you guys to
like, are they crazy? Are they out of your mind? Samantha, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
think about it in this light, because this is kind of how I'm viewing. Who is this movie for?
It's for uncomfortable white audiences. That's the target demographic.
Because if this movie was, say, viewed by a racist person, right? And maybe Bakshi's goal was just to show how marginalized people are and how terrible it is and stuff like that. A racist person is not going to see that message.
Well, no shit, because racists are idiots. And Bakshi has said multiple times that he does not make films for idiots. He doesn't make his movies for people who aren't going to understand them. He makes them for people who want to critically engage with his work. He's like, I don't understand what this argument is. Like, oh, he doesn't let racists understand it enough. Racists aren't going to get it that well. Like no shit. You think he's going to convert racists? This is specifically about like not blatant racists, but more like subtle racism. Like it is about blatant racism, but at the same time, it's targeted at people who are either subtly racist or don't really acknowledge racism. Like, that's the target demographic. Like, if a racist saw this film, they probably wouldn't be like converted over to something else. But that's just because racists are idiots and they don't want to like listen to the other side of shit. And also, like, they're just dumb. Like, why should he feel the need to cater to or pander to people who aren't his target demographic, first of all, and otherwise people who wouldn't get his messages unless they were incredibly dumbed down? What's the point of deteriorating art like that just for people he doesn't want to like message to?
The racist person is going to see the black caricature, the other caricatures of
Well, fuck them. Fuck them then. They don't matter. Who cares? That's not who the film is targeted at necessarily. I mean, it depicts the obvious horrors of racism. Like, it does that, definitely. It makes fun of them very much. But it's not trying to, like, convert them because it knows it can't convert them that easily. So it's just, like I said, it's not the target demographic. And he shouldn't have to try and pander or cater to those sorts of people just to try and be, like, it's not going to be that easy to convert an actual racist.
Of different races of people, and then just that's all they see. They're not going to change their mind. They're not going to see the deeper message. They're just going to see the racism. And then on a counterpoint, Jewish people, Italians,
You know, like Ralph Bakshi, the Jew.
black people, mainly black people, because that's the main portion of this movie. But if any of those people would see this movie, would they really
Lots of people. I know it.
think it's good? Like, that's what I...
Yes. Yes. Tons of black people love Coonskin. There are multiple deep analyses of the film by black YouTubers. I think there's one by like Man of a Thousand Thoughts that's pretty good. And there's a few others that you should definitely check out by black people who like the film.
I don't get. Who is this movie for? Is this...
That's just because you're like compartmentalizing it into like, oh, this massive specific group has to be the target audience, when really it's targeted more at specific areas of the white community.
This movie trying to convince racist people to not be racist? Is it...
Well, not like blatantly racist people. It's trying to get, I've said, the subtle racists, the people who don't want to acknowledge racism, the ones who would rather just shove it away, avert their eyes. People who otherwise would not engage with it, who need to understand why it's important.
The movie trying to...
Why we need to learn from history. Why we can't just like throw it away because it makes us uncomfortable.
uplift...
But rather we need to learn from it.
people of marginalized cultures. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So Paramount ended up backing out of distribution.
Maybe he's just one of the types of people, like, you know, Bakshi is not catering to him and his inability to understand the complex material. So he's automatically saying it's bad. He's doing literally the exact same thing. He's only looking at the imagery and he's only looking at the basic shit without trying to understand anything on a deeper level. Like, how like, he's saying that Bakshi is lacking in self-awareness, but this is probably one of the least self-aware videos I've ever seen.
Distributing this movie. I can only imagine why. And another company actually ended up distributing it. The company Bryanston.
Yes.
And something...
You know, something funny about that is that they were run by the mafia. So, you know, and that's the biggest target of the movie.
It's hilarious. Is this same company that took this movie and distributed it went bankrupt 2 weeks after they distributed this movie. Now, I have no idea if those two things are related, but still, it's just quite funny. So Bakshi himself actually stated all of his frustrations.
Funny how he says only the racist would only see the racism. Yeah. Makes you think.
Frustrations with this,
not really though. I'm sure he's just a guy. I'm sure he's just, you know, naive.
This distribution company, because he himself said this movie was about blacks for whites, which again, I don't think...
Okay, when you say it like that, it sounds bad, but this is like another instance of just like him saying something but not expanding on it. Like, yes, it's about blacks for whites. Specifically, I've said it multiple times. You know what I'm saying? You know what? I'm a record repeating, going on loop, getting scratched every once in a while and having to like do a bit of a stutter there. But you get what I'm saying. You get what I mean.
That's gonna work. But anyway, he says, however, the ads displayed it to be for blacks against whites.
Yes.
So all of the promotion and the ads for the movie apparently went in a different direction that Bakshi was going for. And the title was actually supposed to break through the racial stereotypes by its bluntness. But the ad stated the hero and his pals are out to get the man to stop calling him the Seaskin. The movie is provocative, original, and deserves better.
He's
than
just
being
reading Wikipedia. Why is he just reading Wikipedia?
sold as the very thing it's not. I guess I have a question for Bakshi. How do you blame them? You know, because
How do you blame them? Because they didn't watch shit. They didn't look at it. Like, you're reading shit that's like explaining it and you're not getting it. Like, how can you not be mad when they literally like gave the film this racist connotation when it's on their side, when it was on the civil rights activist side? And they decided to slander it, to make all these accusations, to ruin Ralph Bakshi's film career for a while, give him this bad connotation in the industry, all for nothing. They even throw smoke bombs into the fucking theaters that are packed with people watching the film. Like, fuck, yeah.
I'm confused. As like a viewer of this, I am
Oh, yeah. He's confused, all right.
genuinely confused as to who this is for, as I mentioned previously. So
It's for you. You are the target audience. You are the one the movie is targeted at, and you don't seem to realize.
I'm not even surprised that this distribution company was confused on their ads and confused on how to portray this movie just by how it is. And things started getting even worse when a small group of protesters actually started throwing a few smoke bombs into packed theaters
Yes,
watching
like I
this
just said.
movie. So eventually the theaters and even the Bryanston Company could no longer show this film. It was just getting too much hate. There were too many protests. I mean, that's not really a surprise.
Fuck you.
And the movie kind of faded into irrelevancy. Around like 2004, they tried to repackage it with a different title and sell it, but it completely failed. But I don't know. It's really hard to sit here and just call Bakshi a racist because
Oh, really? It's hard to do that? It feels like you've kind of been implying that for this whole video.
I don't really think that's the case. I just think he's extremely misguided and maybe naive.
Hello there, Pot. My name is Kettle. Have you ever realized how black you are?
Is a good word for it. I think he gave way too much faith in the fact that people would look beyond the surface level.
Crazy thought, I know. This video is a clear example of why that was just a horrible idea, to give people that much credit.
Because the surface level of this movie is so goddamn loud. And in general, people normally don't look beyond the surface level. So the fact that he
Just like a lack of self-awareness, my god.
believed that people would see the good in this movie is beyond me. I mean, Bakshi has shown time and time again his hate for discrimination.
Yes.
And this movie supposedly
Yeah, that's another thing, is that, like, what does he want Bakshi to do to change up the format? What does he want him to do? Like, does he want some character to walk up in front of him and be like, racism is bad? Like, do you think he, like, gives that little credence to his audience's intelligence that he would just be like, racism bad?
quoted by him is supposed to display how awful these things are. Again, I
Yes.
full-heartedly believe that there are great messages and commentaries in this movie.
Why don't you talk about them then? Probably because you don't understand or know what they are. You're just like, oh, a lot of people, they say it, so I guess maybe it's not racist.
But the problem is, most people won't see.
What the fuck is this? This quality, the black bars. Actually, this might not even be a regular clip from Coonskin. This might be from like 2012 when he when Bakshi reused it as a stock thing for a Mitt Romney campaign thing. You know, like a political type shit. That might be what this is from, which might explain the black bars. But my God, come on. Do you seriously have no like I'm almost fully convinced he did not watch the movie at all and that he just took these clips off YouTube because that's all he could find of the movie.
That they're just gonna glaze right over it and focus on the surface level. Honestly, I would recommend just watching this movie because of its cultural significance and its controversy. It's so interesting. And also, you can see for yourself and form your own opinion on this movie. I genuinely feel like Ralph Bakshi is a fantastic director. And this movie...
It doesn't even, I don't even feel like he actually believes some of the shit that he's saying. I feel like he's just saying it so that he won't get angry comments from people because he doesn't really understand why people are saying it isn't racist, but he doesn't want to get dogpiled and shown for not understanding, which he clearly does not.
honestly
So he's just like saying this shit at the end, like, "Oh, form your own opinion, I guess." Yeah.
art, because regardless of how you view it, it makes you think. It makes people question things. And
I don't think it made you think. I don't think you really thought much. I feel like you came into this video with a specific idea of how the film was, and you didn't really allow yourself to challenge that preconception.
people talk. You truly need to be mentally prepared going into this movie. I did not show many clips of this movie.
Yeah, because I don't think you could find any others on YouTube.
For obvious
Actually, I think the whole movie's on YouTube now, so like bad timing that this happened 9 months ago.
reasons, it is honestly hard to find clips of this movie where I feel comfortable showing by how grotesque
Oh, that's why he couldn't show them, because he was grossed out by them. That's why he couldn't show them.
the
Not that he didn't have them. That's not why he didn't have them. Why he didn't show them.
all this movie is debauchery, crime, sex, drugs, gun, alcohol, like everything. It's just raw, pure, the underbelly.
Did he even have a script for this video? I'm not entirely convinced that he had a script for this video. It sounds so off the cuff, so rough. He's repeating things so many times. Like, I'm on live stream and I'm not repeating things as much as he is.
Of the world. And after researching
See, like, of the world. America.
all of this and trying with every fiber of my being to understand the reasoning behind Bakshi doing this, I can 100% see the message in this movie.
Can you? Can you, though? You didn't seem to get it. You didn't talk about it at all. Like, at all.
But does the message outweigh the racism?
Yes. It's like there isn't actual racism. There isn't, like, the film itself is not racist. It depicts racism, but it is not racist. You don't have to, like, oh, I mean, is the message better than the racism in this movie? Like, the message is the racism.
That's the big question. So let me know in the
Is
comments
it the
below. What do you guys think? You think this movie went a little bit too far? You think Bakshi was actually just a genius and everyone's just really, really stupid? Or
Well, somebody's stupid.
is this movie just a plain racist caricature that is just poison to people and kind of puts marginalized people down even more? Me
Get a little closer to the mic, why don't you?
personally, I think above all else, this movie is about what lens you view it in. If you view it trying to find a good message, you might happen to find that message.
Oh, you might happen to find it. If you really look hard for it, yeah, fuck you. Jesus, I hate this fucking attitude. Like, he's so self-assured and that what he's saying is the right way, but yet at the same time, he's like, I totally get the message. I totally get what they're saying, but also, at the same time.
However, if you view it on the surface level, which I will admit most people are going to do that, then you're just going to see a batshit crazy racist ass movie.
No, you're not. Even if you look at it from a basic level, you'll understand very well. Like, the people he goes up against are the suppressors of the black community. He fights a racist cop by putting him in blackface and getting him shot down by cops. How is that not...
And it is definitely one of the most
I'm having a brain aneurysm here.
interesting pieces of media and discourse I've seen in quite a long time. So again, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. That's all I got for this video. Hope you have a good day.
So that was Bionic Pig's video on Coonskin. And it's very bad. I really do not like it. Will you keep video on your channel? I think it should get more views. It's rare people like him get called out my opinion. He's riding that fence so hard. Yes, he is. Quoting whatever stupid line. Haven't watched a Bionic Pig video for a year. Maybe that's for the best. If people is dumb, that doesn't mean the creator needs to do a really obvious product. Yep. Like the Pinocchio remake not having alcohol, even the original very clearly painted it in a bad light. Oh, got another super chat from Bubowski. Poor excuse for him to make low effort points. Yes. Dish soap. Don't you dare call this ice dweller black, given how much he misunderstood the movie. Have you gotten it? Sorry if I missed. Oh, there's other super chats. My bad. Sorry for not. I was so engrossed in this video. $10 from $10 Canadian from Kinjorex101. Would it be oxymoronic to tell just stop to not stop? Ah, whatever. Keep up the good stuff, man. Thank you. Let's see here. Any other shit? $10 from Because I'm Bored. I really hope the Bakshi video is a sign you lean more into mature, if a bit obscure, animated films like Plague Dogs, Day, or When the Wind Blows. Yeah, I do want to cover more obscure adult animation. Definitely. I love covering more adult shit. I probably won't stop with the kiddie stuff as well, just because I like to draw on my own nostalgia a lot. I'm probably going to make a video on Batman Brave and the Bold, maybe Kirby Buckets, just because like those are things I want to talk about. But I will definitely also be covering adult media. I'm just going to cover whatever I like, really. Whatever I feel like is really best for me. Oh, $2 from Cancer. Forgot you were once a commentary channel. Yeah, I was, at one point. Those days are long behind me, though. I already said this, but this guy def gives off the vibe of a white guy getting offended on the minority group's behalf. He does. That is true. TBH, it feels like when reviewing movies like these, it's just basically not trying to do insight into said movie and just basically trying to say, win a whole moral high ground when really there isn't. Like, yeah, it does definitely feel like throughout this video, he's trying to... someone else said it. He's sitting on the fence. Like, on one side, he doesn't really understand the movie and he thinks that it's racist, so he wants to like say all this shit about it. But on the other hand, he sees all these people, like during this research, he's seeing all these people say that it's great, and he doesn't really get them, but he doesn't want to offend them either. So he's like, racism, but also, form your own opinion. Some people say this. It doesn't really seem like a video where he understood what he wanted to say. I hate how he weasels out of thinking in depth and giving a substantive thought on the movie instead of just going, is it racist? I don't care, like and subscribe. Yes. $2 from B Miser. Fairly Odd Parents 2024 review win. I know that show just started up. If it's interesting, then I will cover it. If it is not interesting, I will not. I try not to just cover something because it's popular. I like to have something to say first and foremost. Do you plan to do a video made in Abyss? That would be something. Funny that there's K-pop stans drama surrounding it. You know, I do really love Made in Abyss, so I might cover that at some point. Hi, I love your content so much. I always watch your review videos while working on my animation since it inspires me. Good to hear, buddy. Unrelated, but your impression of him is spot on, lol. I wasn't even trying to do an impression. I was just doing like my generic sort of nerdy geek voice. Will this stream be deleted or kept on the channel? I mean, I guess I'll... Oof. Damn it, I'm becoming Bionic Pig. I just hit my microphone like he hit his microphone. I guess I'll keep it up if that's what people want. So after this, we're going to be doing... His reviews are really just an immediate reaction after watching a film without discussing it. Was really sad to see the quality drop. I normally don't like making assumptions about people like this, but how on earth did he not realize that he kind of comes across as the people this movie is very blatantly making fun of? You know, some people don't see the forest for the trees, if you get what I mean. So anyway, now that that's over, it's time to cover a Doug Walker classic. You know, I kind of got started, my channel kind of got started by a video critiquing Nostalgia Critic, but I do like looking back on a lot of his old reviews, and even some of his modern ones are okay. But man, this video on Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I really dislike it, especially with like how I made a video going over all the Wimpy Kid films recently. So this one left a rather bad taste in my mouth, turned into Rick from Rick and Morty, popular TV show Rick and Morty.
This episode brought to you by Raycon.
Oh no.
Earbuds that look, feel, and sound better than
Why
ever.
did I say oh no?
Also brought to you by EveryPlate, your perfect, affordable, and delicious meal kit.
Channel awesome. Home of Jew Wario. I do like how he he tries to switch up the openings every once in a while. I don't have nearly as much resentment for Doug Walker as I did in 2019. I mean, I'd never say I would like hated him, but I don't have nearly as much resentment for the guy as I did like 5 years ago. back when I was a teenager and thought it was just, you know, cool to hate what I used to really like. You know, like I'll unapologetically watch a Nostalgia Critic video every once in a while, just as like background video type shit. Here we go. Nostalgia Critic skits, baby. Let's go. Nostalgia Critic is in the lounge looking over the script for his next review. Tamara and Malcolm enter the lounge wondering what he is doing. Is that script you're working on? Oh no, it's the Diary of a Wimpy Kid film, isn't it? Yes. Aw man, I hear that movie is really bad. But everyone I know says it's really bad. What? Who says the Diary of a Wimpy Kid is bad? I've never heard anyone. Like, maybe that's just because of my my fucking exposure to the internet, where everybody loves Diary of a Wimpy Kid, like, unequivocally. Wait, actually, hold on. Is this a setup? Yeah, it's pretty bad. How bad is it? Is this the setup for a joke, or are you legitimately asking?
Oh, man.
God, can this just be over already? Can we just get to the video? No, we're gonna watch it, but still. God, you need to feel how long this fucking takes.
Gee, Tamara, what are you reading?
Oh, nothing.
No, really, we insist.
Oh, I was just reading my old diary of growing up in middle school.
Well, I'm going over the lines of today's shoot.
Oh, well, I know what I'm reading isn't as important as...
You're right.
Well, hold on, critic. There might be something in there that can connect to today's review.
I like Malcolm. Malcolm's a cool guy. You know, he might be a furry, but he's cool in my book. No hate to the furries.
I guess we are doing Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
And I was voted most likely to wimp.
All right, let's take a look.
Oh, this is my best friend in the world, Billy, and I trying to fit in with the latest fashion trends. Oh, yep. And here's a picture of us both being laughed at because the kids thought we were too dorky.
Alright, this is obvious parallel to Diary of a Wimpy Kid stuff. Greg and Rowley trying to fit in. Well, Greg trying to fit in and dragging Rowley along with him.
Aww.
And this is me shaming Billy for not changing who he was. It was the first time I saw a boy cry, but not the last.
That's childhood?
I guess they're trying to make a point here, like, man, Greg is so fucked up in the movie. Greg does so much fucked up stuff to Rowley. He's such a bad guy. When like, yeah, that's the point. That's what you're supposed to think.
Oh, here is me throwing...
I mean, it's not like supposed to just be like, oh, goofy kids and their antics. No, the film and the books are both very aware that Greg Heffley is a fucking maniac. He's a fucking loser and an asshole. And he gets his comeuppance constantly.
Box at him because he didn't fix my insecurities.
Is he tied to a tree?
What else was I going to use my jump rope for?
Jumping?
Oh, yeah. Oh, here's a picture of me framing him for eating the school.
God, you know, like, sometimes I find Nostalgia Critic funny, but these skits, they're never good. Never. I'm not sure I've ever seen one that even, like, got close to making me laugh.
Hamster.
Is that the police taking him away?
Well, it wouldn't be the last time. I made sure of that.
Tamara, everything you're showing us is concerningly, disturbingly, alarmingly wrong.
Come on, it's middle school. Everyone went through this in middle school.
They did?
Yeah, I made sure of it.
You're trying to make this sound like a Christmas story.
But it's Disney Channel's Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Aw, you guys are just too soft. Much like Billy would.
This is a very good, like, glimpse into how the rest of this video is going to be, because it, like the Bionic Pig video, it does not get anything about Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or how self-aware it is, or understand what it's going for.
I trained him to be a piñata.
Where is Billy now?
Oh, we're still best buds. We keep really close. Isn't that right, Billy? Not twice for yes. See?
Is Billy on the floor?
How else would we keep close?
What the hell?
Is that what your middle school life was like?
No, but I'm sure that's what Jigsaw's middle school life was like.
What are we gonna do?
Malcolm looks so uninterested, like he's looking to the side. Yeah, that's great, Doug. Yeah. Hey, by the way, my paycheck bounced. Is that gonna like get fixed or?
Well, first we gotta dig a hole to get this Billy guy out.
That makes sense. But I can't believe I live in a world where that makes sense.
2, we gotta alert the authorities. After I do the review, of course, this ties into perfectly.
Of course, nobody would blame you.
Just watch her like we should have been watching the person living under our floors.
Do you really think she ate that hamster, Critic?
I don't know. Malcolm, I don't know.
Where's the funny? Oh, guys, hold on. I'm looking around for the funny. Ooh, where is it? Ooh, is it over here? Up there? No? Oh, down there. Oh. Can't find the funny anywhere.
What you talking about?
Oh, there's one of those sound effects that you're always going to hear in a Nostalgia Critic video. You know they've got like a whole folder for those specific sound effects, like poof, boom, Vine sound effect.
Oh, about how not crazy you are.
I love those conversations.
They happen a lot?
No.
Okay.
Oh, God,
I'm sure it's made a
finally.
fine book series, but man, it made an awkward movie.
Jesus. 4 minutes in. 4 minutes. Oh, Jesus. It's over almost 3 minutes of nothing but skit. Damn, Doug, make the music a little bit louder, why don't you?
While I didn't grow up with the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, it became such a phenomenon that I couldn't escape at least knowing what it was. Beginning as an online diary in 2004 by Jeff Kinney, audiences immediately fell in love with the stories and drawings and demanded it in print form. They've since become the 6th best-selling book series of all time.
And, like, half of them are definitely worth reading.
As someone who hasn't read it, I can see
Wait, he hasn't read it? I mean, I'm saying wait, just because, like, you know, to you, this might be my first reaction. I've seen this video before, but, you know, it does give you pause when you hear him say he hasn't actually read the books. And he's not going to, like, compare it to anything in this video. He's just watching the movie without knowing what the books are. And it makes him look kind of dumb in retrospect, it kind of foolish for some of the things that he says about Greg and shit. And about the movie in general.
why this telling of a naive kid trying to fit in by any means necessary.
Like, that's exactly one of the things. Naive kid. Greg is not naive. Well, I mean, he is naive in a way, but he is very much aware of the fact, well, at least in the books, he's very aware of the fact that he is an asshole and he just doesn't care. Whereas, you know, in the movies, he goes through his gradual character development arc, getting better with each film. First learning in the original film to not care about the social hierarchy, to stick by his friends over some stupid made-up version of popularity that he shouldn't want to seek. Second movie, gets along with his brother, figures out the importance of family that he didn't really understand before. Third movie, he understands that he needs to learn to fess up when he makes a mistake rather than, like, you know, avoiding it, trying to do some shit different, try to blame it on something else. Like, he goes for a very gradual character arc in the movies that is not present at all in the books.
Necessary could work in this format. As a 2010 film, though, I get the feeling something was lost in translation. This is a bizarrely mean, dumb, and not very funny telling of a supposed sympathetic middle schooler who
No, sympathetic. Oh, God. No, Greg is not sympathetic, at least in the books. In the movie, he does have sympathetic traits, but the film is very aware that he is an asshole, that he's a bad guy. There's, like, the whole point, basically, that, like, from a kid's perspective, you could see yourself in Greg, and that's a problem because Greg is a bad person. And the film only acknowledges that he's a bad person later on, so that, like, kids watching it would be like, "Whoa, I can't believe he basically said the film basically said that I'm a bad person," and then it goes through the steps of showing why and explaining as much and helping him grow. I feel like it was very powerful for a lot of kids growing up who didn't really understand as much.
who's so unlikable, I'm kind of rooting for the bullies to beat him up. Now, we've seen selfish kids in movies and shows done well before, both in humorous ways and relatable ways that make us identify with them even when they do something stupid or mean-spirited. This character in this world does not know how to do that in the same way.
He's not supposed to be sympathetic every single time. A lot of the time, you're supposed to hate Greg. That's the point. That's what it's going for.
If it had a smarter sense of humor or more honest and genuine storytelling, maybe it could.
I feel like saying that Diary of a Wimpy Kid is not either of those things is a crime. Lock him up, Your Honor.
It worked, but as is, it's pretty lame and even uncomfortable. I ended up hating this little snot and the fact that he had no identity outside of wanting to be liked.
That's not all that Greg is. I mean, Greg is very shallow and doesn't really. He is naive. He is naive in the sense that he doesn't really understand why what he's doing is wrong. He's so intent on becoming popular and following this ladder up to the higher rungs of school society that he doesn't understand the harm that he's doing to other people and those that genuinely care about him. He's intentionally supposed to be shallow so that he can grow beyond it.
It's not like he was a certain way in middle school is challenging that. He just wants to fit in and there's nothing else to him.
That's not all there is to Greg. He's a complex character in the movies. I mean, he is a complex character in the books too, but he's complex in the movies for the fact that he's not just an asshole. He's not just trying to climb the social ladder. He does have moments of sympathy. He has moments where it seems like he actually does care about the people around them, but despite that, he keeps hurting them. And we get to see why he hurts them. And they call him out on his bullshit, and he learns from it, and he becomes a better person because he actually wants to grow in the movies. I have to constantly put that asterisk of in the movies.
So fittingly, that's how I saw this movie. It wants to fit in with all these other coming-of-age comedies, but
Not really. I mean, it's definitely doing its own thing, I'd say.
doesn't because it has no unique voice.
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you, Doug Walker? I smite thee from thy ivory tower.
I guess people saw it though because they made several sequels and shows, but
They did not make any shows. Doug. Do your research, my guy.
whenever I look up reviews, it doesn't seem like it won over everybody. So
Just critical reviews. If you look, have you ever looked up reviews online? Because there's a lot of reviews saying they're good movies.
I'm gonna dish
Look at mine. Look at my review.
why it didn't win me over either. This is probably gonna get me in trouble with the diehard fan base. Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
You could say that again. Well, I mean, I guess not, because the dislikes don't show as much, but, you know. What's chat saying? We've warmed up for the Nostalgia Critic video. What is chat having to say? Should look at, like, any super chats that we got. Let's see. First, B-Meister. No, sorry, I already saw that. Organoff. Will you do a video about pneumonia? I don't know. Pneumonia, not very good, to be honest. Not a big fan of pneumonia. No, I'm not. I know this is about pneumona. Probably not. I don't think so. I don't think I will. Oogly Boogly for $2.99 You gotta hand it to Doug, though. Still trucking on. He does have resilience. I'll give him that much, definitely. Elias Garcia gave $1. The Litterbox Critic. Were you unfortunate enough to suffer from Star Giant Productions' awful videos back when they were still on the internet? Yes. In my really old ass Mr. Inner video, I talk about why they're not a good editor, and I remember, like, after the fact, they came into my DMs, like, well, you know, from certain perspectives, you're not a very good editor either, and I just had to, like, yeah, whatever, man, because I didn't want to fight them. But yeah, that was, yeah, she has left a bad taste in my mouth. I wasn't, like, hard hit by the shit that happened with her, just because she was always a weirdo to me. And I always got a bad vibe from her, but yeah. His Rango video is really bad. Earlier today I was looking at a video about his Rango video. I don't know too much about Rango, so I don't have much to say about that. So, oh yeah, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid fan base is so known for their toxicity that may or may not exist. I wouldn't really know. I'm not part of the DOTW community. Doug Walker tends to not get the point a lot, but for some reason, I kind of give him a pass. Yeah. I watched him when I was a kid and thought it's funny sometimes. The least he could have done was read the first... Like, that's what I'm saying. He should have at least read the first book. It's like 200 pages, takes a couple hours tops. I get that he makes these videos like every 2 weeks, but it's not that hard, is it? Really? A lot of critics online can be classified as the nerd emoji with the hand pointing up. I still despise NC's Secret of Nim 2 video. I don't think Secret of Nim is good. Secret of Nim 2 is good. Almost had a slip of the tongue there. Secret of Nim is great. Secret of Nim 2, on the other hand.
It opens with our main character, Greg, played by Zachary Gordon, being told
Why does he feel the need? This is happening again. Why does he feel the need to name the actors? They aren't even known for much else outside of these movies.
he's about to be late for his first day of middle school. We get the shtick of him rushing his morning routine that, I know it's hypocritical me saying this, but is probably trying too
God, my lips are fucking...
hard. But it looks like it's a prank, as it's a beautiful screensaver night outside. We get the iconic drawings where he looks like a more cancerous Charlie Brown, and our opening narration begins.
Let me get something straight. This is a journal, not a diary.
So you're already lying to us. It's like the opening of Superman when he said, I'm really more of a meh man.
No, but this is like a very insightful thing about Greg. Like, he's so insecure about what people will think of him that he's like, oh, this isn't a diary, this is a journal. It's a very important opening line. It's like iconic for how well known it is, because it characterizes Greg out of the gate so perfectly. You understand exactly what he's about from those first few lines.
So right off the bat, this character's setup is that he wants attention.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. A lot
He
of
wants
kids are
fame.
like that, but for what?
He feels like he's predetermined for greatness, but he doesn't really have any idea what to fight for or how to get it. And he doesn't really feel like he should have to fight to get it. He feels like he's sort of owed it in a way, which leads to all the misadventures of him constantly fumbling, constantly messing up, and showing that his idea of constantly being destined for greatness isn't true. And you see him humble himself over the movie and over the next few films, where he doesn't nearly have this mindset whatsoever.
Just being.
I always figured they make
Yeah, exactly. He's shallow. He doesn't really understand what kind of greatness he's destined for, but he's just like, I am destined for greatness. I'm going to do all these great things. I'm going to be the most popular kid in school. He's so superficial and fake and doesn't know his place in the world. So he's constantly trying... I keep saying constantly. Sorry. Sorry about that. My vocabulary can be a little bit limited on occasion, so please bear with me. But he's looking for some place to fit in because he doesn't know, because he's in middle school. And through that, he has gained this massive ego, thinking, if I'm going to be somewhere, I bet I might as well be the best. But he's not willing to put in the effort at the same time.
movie about my life.
That's our boy up there.
Why did I ever say no to him?
When I'm rich and famous, I'll let better things do than answer people's stupid questions all day long.
He doesn't have any interests or hobbies.
Yes.
One thing they say later is he likes drawing, which, yeah, you think that goes without saying, but they almost never show him drawing or even talking about it. And let's be...
I mean, yeah, drawing isn't a big part of his... Well, I mean, it was more part of his shtick in the book, and it is mentioned he does cartoons, he does comics, but the fact that we don't see he has many interests outside of what a regular a regular boy would like video games, that sort of shit. The fact that he doesn't have those defining traits and he's constantly looking for them over the film, that's the point, is that he doesn't know his place in the world and he's trying to find it, and at the same time, in trying to find it, he's harming people in the process, trying to get to the upper echelons of social standing. In doing that, he is pushing the people away that he should want to keep in. And the whole film is about demonstrating how toxic that mindset is, how bad it is. To
be honest, even his drawings are pretty lame. The style works in a book because it's a purposefully bad visual, making it even funnier when he tries to explain something and you have to use your imagination to help. But here, you're shown how everything happened.
Yeah, that's sort of the difference between the books and the films, because in the books we're reading it from Greg's perspective, so there's a lot of subtle details and shit that they can't incorporate into the movie because it's actually showing us what is happening. So there's actually a difference in perspective within the film that is not shown in the books, where Greg is more blatantly described and showcased as the asshole, because why would he show himself as the asshole in the books? I mean, he's the one writing it.
So
it's an advantage that the films have over the movie, over the books. Jeez.
Hobby he has that we never see is still pointless. It's only done because people remember it from the book.
What do you mean just because people remember it from the book? It's a pretty straight adaptation in the sense that most of the scenes from the book are adapted into the movie, if messed around with on occasion. They're not just pandering, if that's what you think.
he was like Calvin and drew people as monsters or something, that give a unique outlook, but it's just stick figures talking. So yeah, there's nothing much to this character. He just wants to grow up and be rewarded for doing nothing. He'll be either an influencer or worse yet, a YouTuber.
The whole film is about his journey from being so shallow, from being so narcissistic, egocentric, so up his own ass, to becoming better, because he realizes that the attitude he currently has is pushing everyone away from him, because he's an asshole, because people don't like him.
Were you always so smart and handsome?
Here's my journal. Now, shoo, shoo.
With that said, his friend in live-action Martin Prince Rowley, played by Robert Caren.
Robert Caren? That's Capron, motherfucker, don't you forget it. Praise our Lord and Savior.
Is easily the best character in the movie.
Joshi says
Well, at least
respect
there's
your
that.
parents and follow your dreams. My mom doesn't let me play with makeup anymore. Do you have my back? I will always have your back, Captain.
For such a throwaway role, this
Throwaway role, he's the second main character.
actor makes the most of it. He's supposed to just be the dumb, happy, fat friend.
Oh my god, that is such a reductive fucking stance to take on Rowley of all characters. He is like so much more. That's how Greg perceives him. Greg sees him as the dumb, the dopey, the always smiling, innocent guy who needs to be taught by him, who needs to be fixed. When no, he's actually very emotionally mature. He understands the shit around him. He's a much better person than Greg, who is ironically very naive about social standards. He's very naive about like how to fit in, when really he should just try being himself, like Rowley, who's great.
Really nothing else. But
Fuck you.
I'll be damned if he doesn't give 1,000,000% at playing the dumbest and
He's not dumb. Rowley isn't even dumb. He's just fucking happy. He's jolly. He's laid back. He's a chill guy. That doesn't mean he's dumb.
happiest of this trope I've ever seen.
Can you say Zooey Mama? We could try for cutest friends. Jazz dancing. I want it to be matchers. Zooey Mama. Cute butt. It was a present from my mom. Yes. I like Zooey Mama. Everyone knows me now. It's like I'm famous. I just started drawing a bunch of Zooey Mamas and I felt better.
Is it okay for me to sleep over tonight?
Awesome.
Shit, this kid really jacks you up.
Oh, by the way, here's a clip count I never thought I'd see on this show. Awkward boy on toilet scenes. There's uncomfortable...
Ah, Jesus, I hate how this is cropped. Look at that. Oh my god, ew. Look at that. Look at how badly that's cropped. Did he do this in like 3 seconds? My god.
a lot of those.
I do actually kind of agree with him here. There are a couple odd... He's not entirely wrong on that point.
In this.
I wonder how he would react to the scene of Greg running through the old folks' home in his underwear.
Ew.
It's your fault he's still potty trained.
The potty monster doesn't like it when you look at him. Ew.
Jesus, I couldn't even make a joke before the next one. What is wrong with you, movie? He brags about how ugly all the kids got over the summer while he, quote, thankfully stayed the same.
Like, this is another scene that demonstrates the movie knows Greg is an asshole. It knows very well.
And that's a little funny. But I don't know. I don't think they directed this kid well to give him a likable performance.
He's supposed to be likable to kids who are just like him. That's sort of the point, is that he's not supposed... Like, the average person is not going to like Greg. But kids who don't know any better, they're going to like him because they see themselves in him, because he embodies a lot of what they're like. And then at first, they think the film is, like, agreeing with them, as if they're being rewarded or being taught, like, this is definitely how you should act, but it's not. And everyone else can see that. And that's what makes it even more impactful for fucking kids, because they don't realize how bad this behavior is until it blows up in Greg's face 2/3 of the way through the film, when Rowley goes off on him. And, well, not goes off. He just reprimands him, basically. He goes through and systematically explains why Greg is a bad friend, why he's a bad person in general. And that gets kids to reflect. That gets them to see the shit that they've done in a new light. It's a very important facet of Greg's character.
I get what they're going for, and this dude has turned in plenty of good roles.
Honestly, I don't really know what else Zachary Gordon has done. He's done some anime stuff recently, I remember. He did, like, the main voice in To Your Eternity, I think, is what it was.
But I think he was told to be too snobbish and too up his own ass.
I might be wrong about that. I don't know for sure.
Gross and undignified that I have to eat breakfast next to him. If you're not gonna listen to me, just tell me. It's better than being seen with that freak joke. Should be at the top of the food chain by now. He can't recover from social suicide.
God, Greg is portrayed so well in those movies. You really fucking hate him. When the film wants you to, I mean.
I was about to make some kid's day by sitting next.
But also at the same time, you can't help but sort of root for him in a way, just because like you want to see what happens at least. And sometimes he does give you those sympathetic moments where it's like he draws you in because he's not just an asshole. There are other facets to his character. He is still a kid. He is like still naive about the world, and in some ways he wants to help Rowley despite the fact that he's constantly changing all the shit around him and doesn't realize the harm that he's causing.
Give him a bow tie and I totally buy him as a young Tucker. Even down to he doesn't like Spanish.
Hola, amigo. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
I feel bonito, oh so bonito.
PE is as much a part of my life as waking up in the morning and going to the bathroom.
No, trust me, you don't need to count that. There's sadly plenty more. He puts all the tall kids.
As waking up.
Why does he do that? Why does he do like the black screen shit? Is that for the ads?
Kids because
He's not Doug, you're not a TV show. You don't need to do the black screen.
I don't know, everyone's just an asshole in this movie.
Yeah, people are assholes in this movie. They separate based purely on social standing, based on how tall you are, how short you are. This is very much in line with the movie.
Discover the 90s token girl. In a 2010 movie, Angie, played by Chloe Grace Moretz.
Oh, that's some great ADR, Doug. You totally didn't record that after the fact.
It all starts in middle school, you know. You're not a kid anymore. The coddling has stopped. Kids are now separated by intelligence.
So, okay, you look at the long intro they give this kid, and you think you get the general idea. She's gonna be kind of an outcast too, a bit of a tomboy, get in trouble with them, maybe a blooming romance, the usual stuff you expect with a character intro like this. But no, she's almost totally gone for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, this is something I actually agree with Doug on. If you've seen my video, like, they do just introduce Angie like she's gonna be important, and they specifically brought her on because they wanted to appeal to a female demographic, but then she doesn't do anything. She barely does anything. She just reinforces what the film already says.
She takes pictures for the yearbook every once in a while.
Though, in a way, I've kind of come around to seeing more of the value she has, and that she's the person who mainly points out, like, how lame Greg is. Like, that's a facet that you actually might not have gotten otherwise just because of how the film portrays it. But she does, like, make it clear. Like, Greg, whenever he's trying to be cool, he is being so fucking lame. He is so socially inept. And it's really funny to see. And Angie is just there as, like, there to clarify, like, yes, he is being dumb. That's what they're going for.
And that's it. Why'd you spend so much time setting her up? That's like introducing Hermione and then putting her as the school mascot. It doesn't make sense.
I'm Angie. Great story.
Yeah, she is still a bit superfluous, though. She didn't need, like, the big introduction she got.
We're gonna go now. Why? This is a good spot.
Damn it, I was about to score.
We are introduced to maybe the cleverest part of the movie, a piece of moldy cheese that's been on the playground so long, it has its own origin story.
Darren touched the cheese! Darren had the cheese touch.
I feel like every school has something that's neglected and only gets worse over time, to a point where kids tell stories where if you touch it, you're infected until you pass it on to someone else. It's honestly kind of a fun setup.
It was madness.
Plus, there's also the whole thing of, the cheese touch representing the social hierarchies, the superficiality of it all, much like how Greg himself was incredibly superficial. It's something that represents these made-up standards that kids have to follow to try to be popular, to try to be, like, in the in crowd, when really they don't need to do that at all. It's meaningless, and it's not going to matter 6 years from now, because you're not going to be in middle school anymore. It's just going to be, like, this bygone era. It's not something that you have to worry about so heavily. And Greg, like, picking it up and showing it in front of everyone, that's like the ultimate act of him going against the conventions, finally standing up for his friend, finally deciding that he is above this, that he's better, that he can be something more. And, you know, the kids reject it. Unlike most films where you'd expect them to join him, nobody else does. But he has Rowley, and that's enough for him. You know, like, that's a great moment in the film. What's chat saying right now? Oh, $2 from Litterbox Critic once again. Ironically, Doug's drawings are a lot worse. Yeah. What else is chat saying? Ooh, got a itching in my chest. When I was a kid, I actually thought there was a Nostalgia Critic TV show because of the way these videos were made. Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of the same, honestly. Angie was meant to be a marketable toy that had no toys. Yes. I was taken aback when you called her Audrey, because my name is Audrey. Doug, they're underage. Honestly, Angie feels like the Peter x MJ dynamic from the MCU pre No Way Home, if it was actually good. Okay. How do we know Braxton doesn't have the cheese touch? You don't. You have to come up to me at Momocon to figure it out, won't you? Won't you now? Won't you? Come, I'm pointing the wrong way. Come visit me at Momocon.
15 minutes in and we're up to 3.
This is a terrible place.
After that kid from Phineas and Ferb tells the story, we cut to... Well, at least I got one joke in between these two back to back. I do really like this joke where Greg imagines one of the bullies picking on him being his servant in 20 years.
I really need my measly, pathetic job scooping your...
And he skipped over the part where it's like the come over and play bit, which is actually kind of important. You know, it's another defining moment for Greg.
Dog's poop.
Whatever, I'll think about it.
Like he would ever grow up to look like that. Here's my number. Oh, I just had it ready to go.
Doug is the bisexual icon we all need, but don't deserve.
Greg's brother, Roderick, played by Devin Bostic,
Gotta check something
time
real quick.
torturing his brother and playing in the band Loaded Diaper. Okay, these two get made fun of, but he gets a pass with a band name that sounds like a Boss Baby sequel.
Well, first of all, you know, it's in middle school. He's in high school, as opposed to them in middle school. And secondly, he owns it. Roderick does not give a fuck. He is Chad. He is ultimate God. Keep Roderick's name out of your fucking mouth.
If he catches you in here, he will kill you.
They tried to find something to get back at him with, but all they discover is the softest of dirty magazines and his old yearbook.
There's tons of things I qualify for. Class clown. Don't you have to be funny for that?
Hey, you said that one movie, not me. Also, I know this movie wants to make
he's not getting it. He's not getting what the movie's saying.
The brother intimidating, but he does have the makings of a Tinder killer, right?
I'll wait here as long as it takes. And then, you're dead.
He protects himself to try and...
That's just because Devin Bostic is so attractive. Moving on.
Sneak past his brother to pee and...
Ew.
Okay, did this guy direct this movie?
8-year-olds, dude.
But his brother was hiding, and he pisses on him. I mean, there's technically no toilet, but I think it's the same ballpark. We find Greg has a bully who's a tall girl named Patty. And before you feel too bad for him, let's see why she picks on him.
Patty is a fatty, has a face just like a ratty. Come on, that was pretty funny.
It's another important scene. It's showing that Greg gets all the problems that he has of his own making. He is the progenitor of everything that he has done. I've said the word progenitor twice in this live stream so far. I don't use that word too often in real, conversation.
Remember when Ant-Man shrunk down so small he basically went into another universe? He couldn't find the tiniest thing to like about this kid. He decides to sign up for wrestling, but keeps getting beaten by the weirdest kid in the school, Freagley.
I'll take it easy on you.
Freagley? It's Fregley, motherfucker. Don't you disrespect him like that.
Seriously, this...
And Greg is, with the sympathetic thing, Greg has sympathetic attributes in that while he is such a massive prick, he's not really aware of it. He's not trying to be necessarily, he just is. There's a sense of innocence to him. He is still a kid. He has the ability and room to grow, and that's why he's not someone you can just totally write off. There are attributes of him that you do like.
The film plays like the first boring 10 minutes of a superhero story, but the powers never happen, so you're just stuck with the lame stuff. Oh, did I mention yet this kid also likes to play a game where he just hits Rowley with a football?
Can I throw it at you now?
There are all these hints and obvious shots, obvious moments showing that Greg is a bad person preemptively before the movie says as much.
You're better at riding than I am, and I'm a better thrower.
Is there a story to this movie, or is it just a buffet of regret? The funny thing is, I usually like it when a film like this has no story. It feels more like an exaggerated slice of life. But there's usually some focus, like
There is a focus. Like he mentioned, it's Greg trying to be popular.
trying to get a BB gun or trying to get a baseball bat from a dog. This is just a boy battling his shallow emptiness. And it's not cynical or funny enough to be clever.
I would say it's both of those things.
You signed up for wrestling?
Greg's dad, played by Steve Zahn, thinks it's great he signed up for wrestling, though. He's another guy I don't think the movie...
I think I'm gonna start just speeding this up a bit, because like this is going on for a while. It feels like you could speed up a Nostalgia Critic video a little bit, right?
figured out as a character, so they just have him say random stuff in random ways.
Well, Greg, I think it's great that you took the initiative to learn something new.
What's that smell? I can't even identify it.
I think you should go. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
They were still figuring out Greg's dad's character. They were still figuring out Frank in the early days of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He did really come into his own in the second movie, but I still like him. Like, he's still a fun guy, a fun, out-of-touch dad type, you know?
Maybe the joke is he was a
Overly masculine. Like, you get the basic traits that he has.
small sponge version of Michael J. Fox, and now that he's been put in water and grown bigger, he doesn't have a personality.
How dare you? I mean, I would, like, his personality isn't nearly as defined as it becomes, but it's far from just, like, gone. It's still there.
He gets teamed up with Patty, resulting in the one line in the movie I actually find believable.
Her parents threatened to sue, so you show her what it's like to wrestle a real live boy.
With this movie's writing, I'm just happy there's now a line that says, "There's nothing in the rule book that says a dog can't wrestle!" And as you guess, she kicks his ass and is made a fool of in this.
Like, why is he acting as if the film is super corny or something like that? I wouldn't say it's that cheesy at all. Sorry, I couldn't find the right word.
School paper.
The first of many moments where Greg tries to look cool and comes out looking like an asshole or looking dumb because he has no concept of social systems.
Not that he needed help.
I heard someone in the hallway say that Bryce Anderson has a cute butt. A butt can't be cute. It's a butt.
What is happening in this film? Seriously, I feel like half the lines in this could be followed by Basil Fawlty saying, "Why don't you talk properly?"
So how are you going to become a class favorite now? 2 words. Best dressed.
Yeah, literally, no one is surprised he models himself after Al Capone. So what do boys wear when they want to look cool? Well, their moms dress them in for picture day. Has anyone who made this movie ever kids before?
The film is very much like it knows what it's doing. It knows what it's saying. It understands very well that Greg already looks like a dork. It's like in Spider-Man 3 when Peter gets the symbiote and he does the dance where he's supposed to be cool. It's not that he's actually supposed to be cool. It's that that's what Peter Parker thinks cool looks like. And the film itself, like, by the reactions of the people around him, you can tell that's what they're going for. He's not actually cool. He never was. But he has Rowley, who's also dressed the same way, but, you know, he's happy and just doing it for fun, unlike Greg, who's doing it for social validation. So he has the scapegoat to find someone else to blame for him not looking cool.
But oh no, Rowley wore the same thing. Clearly this idiotic idea was his fault.
Maybe Roderick was right about Rowley. Maybe I do need a new best friend.
No, you need to read this.
I'm not even reacting to some of the stuff just because, you know, I've already said it before.
Bob's to listen to is 8 hours and noise isolation. Percent off your Raycon gets busy. Set yourself up a portion to help you save money. What am I talking about? At first I was skeptical because I will admit.
What is he talking about? Oh, Doug.
I'm out of it. I saved. I can't express more that every plate is worth every penny. Here's a special and enter in text that says, "Trust me."
Man. I want to lick that forehead. Just to, like, know what the texture is like. Or maybe just like, you know, caress it like an orb. I'm letting my intrusive thoughts speak for me today.
That returns to playing Kingdom Hearts and Birth by Sleep every Friday on Twitch. We also have new content 6 days a week. Hope to see you there.
I never really got the idea of watching someone for hours on Twitch, like, every day. What do you people do with your free time? Watching internet reviewers, making live streams? What are you doing?
We're watching a pretty funny 80s film strip that's not only low budget, but the actors are clearly older than middle school. Greg realizes he's fine the way he is. It's his best friend who needs to change. Okay.
That's a joke.
Don't you dare ruin clearly the best character in the movie because this kid is still hilarious.
Josh is not cool. He's a lip-syncing pop star whose fans are 8-year-old girls. You're just jealous that I was the one who discovered him.
What the hell is he even wearing on Halloween? He must be the only kid in history to dress up as King Wart from Mario 2. But his brother tells him the story about ghost cannibals who ate.
Wow, he just skipped ahead already to Halloween. Skipped past some of the trying to convert Rowley, which is like basically the main plot of the film is him trying to convert Rowley to his ways and figuring out that he was the one at fault all along. But, just skip over it, I guess.
Children.
We put the kids in these giant pizza ovens, and they cooked them, and they ate them.
So does every member of Loaded Diaper look like Nathan Fielder shot with a makeup gun? Oh, what's the father doing again?
In case someone tries to TP us, they're gonna get drenched.
Okay. He's kind of a name, so we're giving him kind of a part.
Come on. That was funny. That was fun. Lighten up, Doug. Lighten up.
Bullies spray him with a milk fire hose. That old gag. But when Greg threatens them, they turn around and try to get him.
Where are we going? We're totally exposed!
No, that's like half the other actors in the movie. They hide in Rowley's grandma's house, who seems to be out.
I'm gonna kick your butts!
That wasn't a natural way to say that. Almost as unnatural as playing Go Fish while waiting for them to come out.
You got any threes? Go fish.
Every kid in this is like one of those phony actors from that film strip earlier, which was ironically making fun of people who don't know how kids act.
No, I mean, no. No. Like, kids play Go Fish. In 2010, they did. I don't know if they still play it now. Kids play Go Fish, or even teens. I mean, what else are they supposed to do while they're just waiting? Are they supposed to stand around, not doing shit?
Are you kidding me? I'm gonna rip off your arms and punch you in the face with your own fists!
You are a malfunctioning Scott Fargus. They're chased into the woods where his brother said all the killings happened, and they hear creepy laughter. But it was just that Freakley kid. It's a satisfying payoff.
Guys?
What the hell is he supposed to be, a horny sperm?
It's a unicorn, bitch.
Can't have one great payoff without another.
I thought you were teenagers. Maybe next to your pop. Hey!
You know, a movie like this should really be a minefield of charm.
I mean, if you don't like it, that's fine, but I wouldn't say it's not good.
Like, there's so many likable moments that should be exploding. How are you missing every single line? His next plan to be seen as cool? Signing up for Safety Patrol.
What is his idea of charming?
Safety Patrol. The cops in middle school.
Did something change since I've been to middle school? Does everyone think the kids from Barney are badass rebels now?
No, they acknowledge that Greg... It's another thing. Greg doesn't know how social systems work. He is completely out of the loop. He thinks he knows everything, but he does not know anything, whereas Rowley is actually pretty knowledgeable. That's the contrast. That's the inversion. That's the subversion.
Just remember,
the irony.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I got that from Catwoman. Look at that. Angie's going for a new look in her story that's not in this.
Safety Patrol is the lowest of the low. The geekiest of the geeky, the island of misfit toys.
Like, she even acknowledges it. She says, like, that's one of the things that Angie actually serves a purpose for, is that she confirms to the audience that what Greg and Rowley are doing is lame.
Yes, now that she's a photographer, she has to be Vicky Vale.
And he's not even acknowledging the
At least lets him know it's a geeky position to be in.
Okay, so he does mention it.
Also,
why did you keep the section in, Doug? Why did you mention the thing like, how do kids not know that being in Safety Patrol is dumb? They acknowledge it in the film, Doug. Doug.
It really turned down the contrast on his house. It's looking green screened. But big surprise, Rowley gets hurt in their game of Let's Hurt Rowley. This makes him an instant chick magnet, but don't worry, Greg forgives him for having his arm broken by him.
I decided to go ahead and forgive Rowley for milking the broken hand so hard.
You're gonna end up as either a crime boss or president.
The film very clearly shows that this is not good behavior. It's a joke that he tries to, like, profit off of the shit that he did to Rowley.
Either way, people are gonna want to see you in jail. He asks Rowley for help on a cartoon contest, but he immediately kicks him out for his bad ideas. Guess what wins his bad ideas?
It's funny!
Good job.
What in cartoon?
I feel like part of it comes down to the fact that, while Greg's comic is, he thinks it's better and it's more cynical and whatnot, Rowley's is very genuine. Like, it's not quite as, what's the word? I say just as much as I say like. I apologize for my speech patterns again. But his is more innocent. It's more predictable and samey, I guess, but it's not, it's something to get mad over.
Who just get standing ovations? Where was...
It's genuine, is what I was trying to say. Like, it embodies what Rowley's about. You feel it's sweet, it's nice.
It's this shit when I was growing up! But just when you thought this character couldn't get any worse, he puts a bunch of kids he was supposed to take home and it did, pretends to be Rowley, abandons them, and then lets his best friend take the fall.
You are officially suspended from Safety Patrol, and I expect a full apology to the kindergartners.
Oh, you mean the ones that would say he's not the one that took us? I know this is a children's movie, but if children get punished for handing in D material, adults should too.
I'm the one who terrorized those kids. What?
I mean, kids would just be like, they show the kids are kind of confused about it, but I guess it's kind of a plot hole a little bit. I don't know. I can believe it.
Be careful who you lend your coat to.
He eventually lets Rowley know it was him that did it, still trying to pass him off with part of the blame. And by God, this kid is doing everything in his power to save this movie.
The movie is good. The material is good, just as much as the actors are.
You know what,
You just aren't understanding things, Mr. Critic.
Greg? You're not a good friend.
Jeez.
Like here, this is the call out. This is what the whole film is built around. This moment hits so hard because throughout the whole movie, Raleigh's been understanding and nice and sympathetic to Greg, and Greg has just responded by trying to change him, change his ways, insult what he likes, all of that shit. And for the whole film, like, it's very clear that we're supposed to dislike Greg for this, but this is the moment where it's all confirmed to us, where Rowley finally points out what we've all been thinking and says, Greg, you are not a good friend. You are a bad person. I would rather I was not around you. And Greg, like, spends the whole rest of the movie grappling with the fact that he was finally called out, and he doesn't want to accept it at first. He wants to find some other scapegoat or someone he can blame. But eventually he realizes it was him all along. He was the reason that he was miserable. He was the reason that nobody liked him. It was all Greg. That's some hard-hitting shit, and he's just glossing over it. It's like he didn't even realize what the film was actually about. Like, it's not nearly as aimless as he claims it is.
I love the shit out of this character. That was the what? No, if it was done correctly. He's like the anti-Cartman. He's just so positive that when he figures out his best friend is a jerk, he acts like he didn't want to believe the rumor that mean people could be a thing.
Don't call me. Don't come by my house.
Seriously, man, you and me, we're fucking done professionally.
He gets a new best friend and even returns to safety patrol because one of the kids revealed what really happened.
Stop doing the black pauses, Doug. You don't need to do them.
Yes, Greg still didn't come forward.
Yeah, because he's still delusional. He's in denial.
To become friends with the Princess girl from Finding Nemo.
Greg Heffley, I love you. We're going to be best friends forever.
I'll admit the randomness of this kid can be a little funny too. Like his weird wall decor, the fact that he has Twister on the floor despite never having anyone to play with. He's just...
Yeah, if you look at the behind the... Actually, I have it with me right here. The movie diary. In this, you can like find a bunch of shit about Fregley, where the book actually mentions that they intentionally had his room filled with a bunch of random shit, just to, like, help characterize him and give off this off-putting aura. Let me see if I can find it. There's a lot of really insightful stuff in this book. Yeah, here it is. Like, you can see all that shit. Like, Fregley's room tells a different story. From the pictures on the walls to the strange items on his shelves, it's clear Fregley isn't your typical middle school kid. And they even, like, his mom is a seamstress, so all of his clothes are handmade by her. There was actually a cut scene where we saw his mom. Yeah, very intentional filmmaking there.
Beating up a kite when Greg asks him for a sleepover. Yet somehow, I still see Greg as most likely to mount human heads. As you'd guess, he's freaked out by Freakley. So he tries yet another attempt to be popular. Jesus, I wish this was a sitcom so he just learned the dumb lesson in a half hour.
They have different meanings. Like, at first, he's doing it with Rowley, alongside him, but now, without Rowley, he's missing a purpose. He's trying to find some last remnant of the popularity that he so clung to that got him to lose Rowley in the first place. So he's trying anything.
By trying out for the school play, he finds...
It has... Like, there's different relevance to different scenes.
He actually has a great voice, but the teacher wants to cast him as Dorothy. When he asks for a male role, she says his voice is too high and casts him as a tree.
Your voice is too high for any of the other male roles. Perhaps you could be a tree.
I guess she was counting on every boy's voice already to be cracked at the audition.
I mean, it is middle school.
He's his brother recording him as a tree, though. He cracks and gets in a fight with Patty, who's playing Dorothy.
Make me come over there and beat you up again.
It's official. I would rather this movie be about any of these kids except the one it's about.
Why?
Wrestling girl would be kind of cool. That half-rendered CG kid would be funny. And by Christ, I am feeling Rowley's absence in the movie right now. Can't he just make up already? No, first he has to get revenge on Roderick by making it look like the younger brother got into his dirty magazine.
It's not just about that, though. That scene has another meaning to it. Like, of course, there's the facet of Greg wanting to get back at someone. He says somebody's got to pay. And so he does this shit with Roderick purely just for the sake of it, because he wants to find a scapegoat or something to let his anger out on. And another interesting thing is that right after that scene, he goes straight to his phone and calls Rowley so he can tell him about it. But he realizes he's not friends with Rowley anymore, so he can't tell him. And it's like this moment of introspection for a second where Greg doesn't know what to do. It's really meaningful.
Do you have anything you want
Shouldn't have skipped over it. Shouldn't have skipped over it, Mr. Walker.
to say to women?
I'm sorry, women.
Well, if it got Scott the Waz's approval, I'm sold.
Scott the Waz mentioned. That's always a plus, Doug. You know how to play to me, even though you don't.
We next go to a mother-son dance because, I don't know, just random things are happening now.
No, it's not random. This is another thing. Greg does not embrace who he is. He doesn't, like, just try to be himself. He's not genuine. He's constantly thinking about appearances, whereas Rowley is able to just hang out, just be himself, just be cool, be chill, and everyone likes him for it. It's a very important scene. Almost every scene in Diary of a Wimpy Kid is important for getting across a certain idea about how Greg is, or how Rowley is, or how their relationship is meant to be viewed.
I take it back now. Random things are happening. Remember when the toilet stuff was the eeriest part?
I mean, I don't really see this as eerie. I think that might just be you, Doug.
So, that happened. But the next day, the bullies from Halloween stumble across our 2 leads and still want revenge. As you'd imagine, they find the cheese and force Rowley to eat it. Now eat it. So, okay, you know what's gonna happen. Greg's gonna insist to eat the cheese to get Rowley off the hook. Nope, Rowley eats half of it. Oh, okay, well, Greg's gonna eat the other half so they'll go through it together. Nope, he's saved. He's gonna eat it in front of everyone to share the pain with his best friend? Nope, he just says he ate it and not Rowley.
He's putting a lot of emphasis on the actual eating, like that's the harrowing part of it. And I mean, it is harrowing into of itself, but that's not why the scene is important. Like, it's not just the actual eating of the cheese itself, it's the connotation that comes along with it.
Even though the movie made it clear there's no lower he can go on the totem pole.
Yeah, but he was deluding himself into thinking he could still get back up there. He could still reach the heights. But with this, he is essentially throwing away any chance at ever getting up on the social totem pole. But he's realized that this is just, like, it's not worth it. He's thrown everything away and gotten nothing back for it. The cheese represents everything that he has had to deal with because of his own actions over the course of the film. So him just picking it up in front of everyone and saying that it's shit and that none of this matters and they should just be who they are, and everyone like running away from him because like the film is subversive like that. You know, like, that's a powerful moment in that it's finally Greg sticking up for his friend and doing something that he should have done from the beginning.
So, yeah, he sacrifices nothing. Saves Rowley's reputation, but Greg wanted his friendship back anyway. It feels like Rowley is still the only one who suffers.
Want to come over after school and play? Okay.
Though I guess you could say he'd suffer worse if the kids found out the truth. Remember, he's friends with Greg again, and Jesus knows that's gonna bring a whole lot of suffering back into his life.
So the year turned out pretty good.
Oh, yeah, I forgot this shot was a thing.
My goal was to be a class favorite, and I made it. Zooey mama!
And that's the way the news goes.
Yeah, catchphrase. I'm sure all the kids said it. I don't know. This movie.
Yes, they did. Zooey Mama became the next cultural icon. Doug.
Was bad.
You're bad. You are bad, Doug Walker.
Like I said before, I can...
More like Doug Runner away from quality films. Got him.
See it working as a book series. Even though I never read it, I can see the potential of a story like this being for kids with a little bit of a mean-spirited edge. But the meanness isn't fun here. It's just...
You need to read the books, my friend. I would say the meanness is fun, but it's even more prominent in the books.
Stupid, unfocused, and doesn't have much of an identity. Aside...
It has so much identity. What do you mean? What do you mean there's no identity?
The line drawing, there's no real style to this film. Maybe because there's no real center to the main character. In the end, what's he all about? I don't know. He's just a douche. Once in a while, there's a good joke or a funny performance from the other kids, but...
I've already explained what is wrong with this assertion.
The way the lead is written and directed doesn't carry any joy. He's just too dumb and unlikable. Maybe one day I'll take a look at this book series and see why it won over so many people, but seeing this movie is not putting me in any rush to check it out. I'm a nostalgia critic, I remember, so you don't have to. Hey, Malcolm, get that thing with Tamara figured out?
Please tell me this doesn't go on for any longer. I want out, man. I want to get out. I want to get off Mr. Bean's wild ride.
Zooey mama!
Okay, that's over. Oof. Now that was harrowing. So that was Nostalgia Critic's video on Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I don't think it's very good, if you could not tell already. Oh, got a $2 from Captain Cat 101 again. I was so happy when Rowley was in Three Stooges. Oh yeah, he was in that. And because of that, he had to wear a wig when he was in Diary of Wimpy Kid Dog Days. Little factoid there for all you people watching at home. My God, the Christian Bale audio put in that scene, and it did actually fits. The actor for Rowley did an amazing job with that scene. Oh, boo. Unfunny over-editing skit. Why is Bionic Pig in the thumbnail? Because, you know, look back in the live stream. I talk about him. Talk about him in the video. I'm mostly upset the sponsor segment wasn't memeable like the pointing at the computer gif. Well, you know, not every one of them can be a winner. $2.5 from Susie Terry. How about you take a look at Dog Seating Dog 6 next? Now, I've already got, like, some preemptive videos, and I've already been going for a while, so I think I'm just gonna watch one more video, honestly. It's already been, like, 2 hours. These skits were a major reason I stopped watching Yincy. Yeah, me too, buddy. I made a tweet saying this review sucks, and people got mad at me for it, Lamau. Justice for Timey. We need to get justice for this person. I need to take a piss, though, so I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. All right, be right back. All right, we are back. Sorry about that. Had to take my designated piss break and get a Hawaiian punch. I'm just going to take a sip of this, and then we can get back to the festivities. One more video. All right. So now for this last video we're going to be doing is actually on something I haven't covered before, and that's the Walking Dead game franchise. And I thought about making a video specifically as a response of sorts, sort of like what I did with the Boys comic video, to this video by Innuendo Studios, who's like a guy that mostly talks about the right wing. Like he has this thing called the alt-right playbook. I've never seen it, honestly. Not really my thing, but he made this video, this really popular video called We Don't Talk About Kenny, Telltale's Walking Dead Season 2, and I hate it. I hate it so much. I think it's a really bad video, really ungodly bad. Oh, $2 from Organoff. Are you going to do a video on Nimona? No, I am not planning on that. Oh, thank God, it's the other guy, from V Infuso. Not sure what you mean. Dude, how is it? I haven't had Hawaiian Punch in years. You know, it's good. You know, when you have your own money, you can do what you want with it, and I like to buy Hawaiian Punch. But yeah, Innuendo Studios, some guy who made a video on Walking Dead Season 2, and it's really bad. And I get it in my recommended every once in a while, whenever I systematically come back to Walking Dead and watch a couple videos on it. So I felt like I would just talk about it in this video, because I'm a big fan of the Walking Dead games, and I hate this video.
The first season of Telltale's The Walking Dead is the game that put the company on the map, and the
Yes.
reverberations of its unexpected success are still being felt throughout the industry. Walking Dead-likes, story-based games with branching narratives built on binary choices, are now a subgenre of adventure game. Without The Walking Dead, we don't have Life is Strange, Dreamfall Chapters, or Until Dawn.
Yeah, it was a very revolutionary game in the sense that it basically created the multiple... Well, it didn't create, but it popularized the multiple choices narrative of games that became really popular afterwards.
Not to mention everything Telltale has released since The Walking Dead has also been in that model. Walking Dead-like is now synonymous with a Telltale game. It's what audiences expect and what people who license properties pay them to make. This hasn't necessarily been good for Telltale, being that nothing they made before The Walking Dead was like The Walking Dead.
Well, Back to the Future was like The Walking Dead. So was Tales of Monkey Island. I haven't played too many of the other.
Nothing they've made since The Walking Dead has been as successful, and the people...
Well, I mean, Minecraft Story Mode was pretty popular. It wasn't as critically success, but, you know, I don't understand that with, like, a pig falling, turning into a pork chop. That was a real moment for me. It's still etched into my mind all these years later. I still laugh about it.
People who actually made The Walking Dead shortly thereafter quit the company. This left the all but guaranteed Walking Dead Season 2 in the hands of a new team, tasked with revisiting some of gaming's most indelible design, storytelling, and character... Fuck!
Here we go.
Let me start again. The first season of Telltale's The Walking Dead is perhaps best remembered for the moment where you, the player, have to decide whether to save Carly or Doug at the end of episode 1. The gravity of this decision is telegraphed very clearly. No matter what you choose, someone is going to die and you're going to have to live with it. Moments like these confront you again and again throughout the remaining episodes, and the game's stock in trade is getting you to wonder whether you've saved the right people, whether you've done the right things. But surrounding these big decisions are dozens and dozens of smaller ones that affect the game in subtler ways. Who you give food to and whose side you take in an argument allow the player to express to the game who they want to be in this zombie apocalypse. But they also serve as contrast for the big decisions. The game makes it clear early on that you will be making choices constantly, and that any choice may have repercussions, but who gets to eat and who gets to live will be communicated differently. When you make a high-level, story-branching decision, you will know you're making one. So what stands out about The Walking Dead Season 2 is how it almost never draws that distinction. You rarely know the difference in this game between a high and low-level choice. Sometimes the game tells you a seemingly inconsequential act was a major decision. Sometimes a seemingly important act of bravery is immediately undercut.
This is actually a portion of the video that I like, where he talks about how you lack autonomy in the game because you're playing the girl from the first game, Clementine, who's sort of growing up in this world where she doesn't have nearly as much autonomy as someone like Lee, the main character of the first game, who is a full-blown adult who can make his own decisions. So a lot of the time, the narrative will go against you or not allow you to make decisions despite your best efforts, and I thought that was an interesting observation that he's going to make in this video. It's just the rest of it. The rest of it I do not like.
Sometimes a life you save is taken from you 20 minutes later. Sometimes a simple act of kindness gets someone killed. Everything is riddled with uncertainty. Really, there's only one decision in the entire game that truly resembles Carly and Doug, where someone is going to die and you have to decide with full knowledge who it's going to be. And it's the last decision you make, here, in the snow, between Jane and... Oh, God damn it.
God, I hate this. I hate the way he's talking like this. Like, I'm so anguished. I don't want to talk about this.
Give me a minute.
Also, if you did not pick Kenny between him and Jane, I'm just going to say it. You're wrong. You are wrong.
The first season of Telltale's The Walking Dead is, at its core, a game about the relationship between protagonist Lee and the 9-year-old girl he swears to protect, Clementine, and, to a lesser extent, their makeshift community of survivors. Saddling the main character with a child preemptively answers a couple questions the player might otherwise ask. As you manage petty squabbles between a cast of antagonistic characters, any one of whom might get you killed, one question is, why don't I just leave these assholes? The answer being that, however dysfunctional, Clementine is probably safer in a group. The other question is, well, who gives a shit? What are the stakes if some dude we just met is maybe gonna die? How do we guarantee that's a difficult choice? Give players an impressionable child and make her convincing, and suddenly they're asking, what will this do to her? Will it
And there's also, like, you know, likable characters in the mix too, like Kenny.
Decision protect her, scar her, toughen her up, preserve her innocence. In a game about making choices, that little girl is what makes your choices matter. Also, she's our hope for the future of humanity and our connection to the world before all this, and our main character's shot at redemption, and that's a thing male writers like to do with young girls in dystopias. It's called The Dadification of Games. I put a link down there. You should read it. It's a thing. But the protagonist of Season 2 is that little girl, grown 2 years older and seemingly a lifetime wearier. This inverts the questions she was originally meant to answer in some interesting ways. She spends a brief early section of Episode 1 separated from any adults, and the first question gets answered pretty handily. Well, fuck, okay. Clementine needs to be in a group. And she quickly finds herself a new makeshift community of assholes. But the second question just hangs there. With no central relationship, the first episode feels like a game in search of meaning. She's making all these hard choices, but what makes those choices matter? Midway through Episode 2...
I mean, it's still, like, affecting her, obviously.
I got my answer. I was coming up on a lodge with my companions, hoping to find shelter, and honestly thinking about how much I miss Lee.
It's just that you're more directly, like, you know, taking part in it.
When out of the crowd walks the second half of Season 2's central relationship. Okay, we're doing this. We don't really talk about Kenny.
I do.
Turns out
I talk about Kenny.
Everybody's favorite character from Season 1 is alive in Season 2, and Clementine's relationship to him forms the backbone of the narrative. So Season 2 cannot be meaningfully discussed without discussing Kenny, and the way the game deviates from the design and storytelling of Season 1 cannot be understood without understanding what this new team of writers is doing with the characters. But talking about Kenny is not easy. One thing that makes it hard is...
I would say it is.
That by the nature of the game, my Kenny won't be the same as yours. But when we first met Kenny back in Season 1, he was just another vision of survivorship, same as most everyone else. We had people who mediated the needs of their family with the needs of the group, people who kept their heads down and just tried to survive, people who abandoned groups to go it alone, etc., etc. And Kenny was there to represent utter devotion to one's family, and how we treated him was our way of expressing how much we agreed with that philosophy. His devotion to family dictated that, for instance, if this old dying man might turn into a walker, you have to smash his head in and argue it's for the greater good. And at least in the case of my Kenny, first try to get someone to do it with you because you're just a little bit of a coward. And being just a little bit of a coward was the big tragedy of Kenny. He could talk a big game about what was right, what was necessary, and could maybe even think of himself as the strong provider who could protect his family from anything, but only when the walkers were on the other side of a locked gate. Whenever the shit really went down, Kenny folded.
This is another thing about this video is that it has a lot of good observations, but the ending conclusion he comes to is so wrong.
All that greater good talk evaporated. He ran from confrontation, and he left all the difficult decision-making to other people. All that really mattered to him was keeping his wife and child alive. The greater community could go fuck themselves. But then the community got raided, his son was bitten, his wife took her own life, and we had to put the child down. So in the end, keeping his...
Well, also, you can't allow Kenny to do it himself.
His family alive was something he just couldn't do. And that's where Kenny stopped being a philosophy and became something else, something darker. An image of what would happen to Lee if he ever lost Clementine.
This will never happen to you.
You don't know that.
Also, I know we're taking forever to get to the point, but we will get there. Just hear me out.
And the point's not gonna be pretty, folks.
This is hard. So how Kenny died, or I guess didn't, is pivotal. I know there's a version of this story where if you're nothing but horrible to him for the entire game, he steals a boat and leaves you in Savannah, but in the ending most of us saw, Kenny is presumed dead after sacrificing himself for someone else. For my Kenny, it was Ben, who was, by the way, kinda sorta responsible for the raid that led to the death of Kenny's family, and whom Kenny had been insisting for days deserves to die, but per usual never actually laid a hand on him. While we were escaping a house via rooftop, Ben managed to impale himself falling off a balcony, and rather than let him get eaten by walkers...
What the fuck, Kenny?
Lee, it's okay.
This was my Kenny forgiving Ben. This was my Kenny deciding that someone other than his own blood could be family. This was my Kenny finally doing what he couldn't do for his own son. Even as a purely symbolic gesture, this one time, he didn't run away.
That's true. All of that is very true.
That we find Kenny alive in Season 2 unravels that entire character arc.
No, it doesn't. It still happened. He still put himself in harm's way for the sake of someone else. The fact that he survived does not diminish the gesture. Like, I don't...
And that probably should have bothered me, but honestly, I was too busy pressing the Hug Kenny button. This is the first moment in the second game that just works, and the way it works is actually pretty sophisticated. See, Clem and Kenny don't really have a pre-existing relationship. They exchange hardly any dialogue through all of Season 1, but Clem's reaction to Kenny is credible and, provided the scene works for us, perfectly reflects our own. We miss Lee, because we went through some awful shit with him and now he's dead. And as we feel his absence, we are given Kenny, someone else we've been thinking is dead, someone else with whom we suffered horrible experiences.
Sorry, I'm not, like, saying much. It really... pops off in the second half, if you know what I mean.
Someone whose role in the first game was to be a mirror for Lee. Kenny is a surrogate for Clem and for us. The game has already started presenting its thesis.
There's a tough world out there without people you can trust.
Which is a roundabout way of saying, who's going to be Clementine's new Lee? And at this point, Kenny seems like the closest we're going to get. And the game is not subtle about the fact that Clem also lets Kenny feel closer to the family he lost.
Pass me that can, Duck.
Duck? Who's Duck?
Duck was his son.
Kenny's
It's such a hard moment, too.
Girlfriend Sarita makes it clear that the only reason Kenny is remotely okay with everything that happened in Season 1 is that he's boxed it all up and put it out of mind. So while Clementine reconnects him to what he's lost, she also reconnects him to that trauma, and Kenny almost immediately starts getting erratic and confrontational, and that's not aided by the fact that this is a Walking Dead game, so no sooner is he reunited with Clem than all the horrors of the first game come flooding back into his life. We'll just have to do bullet points from here. So the people Clementine showed up with are apparently escapees from a dictatorial community run by this dude named Carver, who raids the lodge in order to get them back for reasons we're not going to go into right now. Several people die, including one of Kenny's friends, and the survivors are thrown into a truck and hauled off to Carver's camp. Once there, Kenny immediately starts pushing for an escape, and the plan they come up with involves Clementine stealing a couple of walkie-talkies. When Carver finds them missing, Kenny takes the blame, and in retribution, Carver beats him till he's blind in one eye. So, when the escape does happen, Carver is incapacitated, and while they could just leave him, Kenny stays behind to smash his head in with a crowbar, and Clem has the option of staying to watch.
Yeah, but, Kenny tells her to go away. He tells her not to watch this. He gives her the option to watch. This is another one of those things where it's like her choice. This is one of the few times where she is given the option to do something. And it's not necessarily what Kenny wants. It's just that he's allowing her to do what she sees as best, because he sees her as more of a person now. He directly gives her the option to opt out. He says you shouldn't see this, but she has the option to choose for herself.
Outside, the escapees must pass through a herd of walkers, at which time Sarita is bitten, and while Clem can try to save her, one way or another she dies. And at this point, Kenny really and truly loses his shit and begins lashing out at everybody, but stays close to Clem, because Clem is now all he has left.
And because Clem is the only person who's actually willing to talk to him, everyone else stays away. They never try to comfort him or say anything. They're constantly afraid of him because they don't know who he really is. They don't know who he was before meeting him at that lodge. They don't know what he's gone through, how much he's had to suffer.
Hope is rekindled.
But Clem has. She knows who he is at heart, even if he's gone through so much hardship and it's breaking him mentally. Clem is the one thing that's keeping him close to sanity.
Somewhat when Rebecca, this is Rebecca, has her baby and Kenny the family man falls in love with it. Then while making their way to the next town, they get ambushed by this kid named Arvo and his family. More people die in that shootout, and Kenny takes Arvo prisoner, choosing to keep him alive when Arvo promises them a cabin full of supplies. Still more people die on the way to the cabin, and when it briefly looks like the cabin is bare, Kenny beats the ever-loving shit out of Arvo.
And he turns out to be very right for this. He was right from the beginning, because they tried to rob him. They tried to rob everyone, and they started shooting. Like, they were in the wrong. They were the ones that did shit. And you know what happens? They abandon him, because fucking Arvo sucks. Arvo is, he sucks. He's a bad person. He tries to kill them on multiple instances. Kenny is fully justified in doing this.
By this time, the rest of the group wants so badly to be away from Kenny that they steal a car in the dead of night. And
not the rest of the group, only some of them. And it's not a good thing that they do that, because they're leaving and taking everyone's food, because these three only care about themselves. And Arvo shoots Clementine because he sucks. He sucks so hard.
And Arvo, for good measure, shoots Clementine on the way out.
Yeah. Kenny was fucking justified in doing what he did.
Comes to in the backseat of a car with the only two adults left in her life.
Like he was aggressive? But, it was justified aggression.
And Jane, this is Jane, screaming at each other, and the fight escalates and escalates and escalates until we're back here in the snow where Kenny is going to stab Jane in the heart unless Clementine shoots him. Fuck me!
Do you know why Kenny was going to stab Jane? It was because, because she wanted to show Clementine that Kenny was mentally unstable. She hid the baby in a car while walkers were around, while it was in the middle of a blizzard, specifically so she could come in and be like, oh, I lost the baby. I lost the baby. Though she's saying that shit after she ran away from the car in the first place and tried to get Clem to run away with her, because she's been trying throughout the game to get her away from Kenny. But in the end, she does this shit, and she pulls, they're fighting, this obviously causes Kenny to go, what the fuck did you do? And he, they're fighting, and she is the one that escalates it by pulling out a knife, going after him, and that's what he's trying to stab her with. He's trying to stab her with the knife she pulled on him after escalating this fight, after starting the fight in the first place, purely just to prove a point. Is this not psychotic? Is this not an obvious choice? Who should have died?
It's as if these new designers looked at everything the first game was. Difficult, complex, emotionally taxing, but ultimately cathartic.
Sorry, this gets me emotional just thinking about it. And especially what he's going to say. Oh, God. Oof.
From that only one adjective, bleak. Midway through the game, I chose to help a scared girl tend plants in a greenhouse, and to repay me for that kindness, in the next scene, Carver threw someone off a roof because I wasn't working fast enough, and that's the game in a nutshell. Traumatize a little girl, give her a bunch of binary choices that don't mean anything, kill secondary characters at random, salt and pepper to taste, and you've got a Walking Dead game. I didn't see what was going on while I was in the thick of it. It took a little while, but I think I get it now. My choices don't matter the way they used to, but that doesn't mean they don't matter at all. And this is still very much a game about a relationship. It's a relationship between a child and the broken, violent, self-hating man who wants to protect her so badly that he just might get her killed. She keeps him near because she knows she might need him, but no one knows better than her what he's capable of.
No, that's not what this is about. Not at all, really. It is still about the relationship shit, but it's about between picking a new life and sticking on to her old life. And, you know, Kenny, he is not totally mentally stable. There are portions where you can see that he's breaking from all of the shit he's having to go through, but at the same time, you can tell he still cares. And if people actually tried to, like, take the time to get to know him, they'd understand that he's more than the violent front he puts up. And it's a violent front that only exists because he's lost 2 families over the course of these games. That shit weighs on you over time. And you can see Kenny trying to not let it affect him, but it does still creep in. He wants to keep Clem safe, but every once in a while, shit can just be too much for him, to the point that he doesn't really even care that she is around. Sometimes he'll just beat a guy's skull in because, you know, he deserves it. He deserved that shit. He deserved what he got. And he gave Clem the choice because he decided that she was worthy of making that on her own. And whether or not you agree with that is up to you, but he does still value her options very much. And that happens, like, in the game. You can see that if you shoot Kenny, he says you made the right choice. If you choose to leave him, Kenny says you made the right choice. If you come along with Kenny at the end of the game, when you're given the choice, he says you made the right choice. Every single option, every single time you choose, Kenny respects it. He understands where you're coming from. He knows what you believe. He respects you. He respects your choices. Whereas Jane fucking sucks. Jane is someone that abandons people at random, uses Clem whenever she's, like, useful to her, and in the end of the game, I've already mentioned her whole fucking baby plan that could have gotten the baby killed in the first place, purely so she can make a point, but after the fact, when she, like shows as much to her, that gives even more reason just to leave him behind. And also, like, when Clem decides that if you decide that Clem doesn't want to go along with her, she, like, begs Clem to stay with her, like, Clem, come back, I can't do this without you, you know? Like, she's emotionally guilt-tripping her. She's not respecting her decision, unlike Kenny, who respects you and respects what you believe. That's why one of the only choices, seeing the beating or not, that actually, like, allows you to make the choice, that's where Kenny allows you to make it, because he respects what you decide to do.
She sees a soft and remorseful side that no one else sees. He's there to take care of her.
No one else sees it because they don't try to see it. They don't understand where he's coming from. They don't know anything about him other than his rage, which turns them off. They send her in to talk to Kenny when bad things are going down because they don't want to interact with him.
But she frequently has to play the adult and take care of him. People are constantly telling her to get away from him while he swears up and down that he will always protect her, and he alienates everyone else who might keep her safe.
No, that's not the case at all. He only alienates Jane, if anything, because Jane sucks. As I've mentioned, Jane is a bad person who does bad things and only cares about herself. But he doesn't alienate her from anyone else. He doesn't, like, suggest going away from the group. He knows that they're safer with the unit that they've got. But at the same time, he is distrustful of certain people. And those distrustful things turn out to be right with Arvo. Because Arvo sucks, as I have mentioned. As I will continue to mention. But, like, most of the disconnect doesn't come from him alienating Clem to them. It's that they don't want to get to know Kenny. None of them want to interact with him.
God, it's textbook. Kenny is Clementine's abusive stepfather.
This is the thing. This is the fucking thing. God, fuck you. Fuck you so hard. I hate this. I hate this so much.
I've seen a couple people mention this, though only passingly, and most seem completely unaware, which is so strange to me.
I like how he's not mentioning Jane at all. Like, Jane, like, even, like, Kenny has problems and the narrative acknowledges this, but Jane is 100 times worse. She sucks so hard.
Because it's only by understanding this that the design starts to make any sense. Whether or not you try to save Sarita, or comfort Rebecca's baby, or watch Kenny kill Carver will not affect the plot, and yet the game keeps telling you that these are major decisions, because they are things Kenny cares about. They are gestures of loyalty. Like Lee wondering, what will this do to Clem? Clem is wondering, what's this gonna do to Kenny? Which is a much more loaded question, because Kenny is not just a person she cares about, but also a threat, if not...
No, Kenny would never hurt Clem. He's like abusive stepfather. That's the angle that he's going for. But Kenny would never do anything to hurt Clem. He respects her. He understands her. He wants to keep her safe. And he never does anything that would put her in harm's way. That's a distinction you need to understand, which Jane does not do. Jane puts Clementine in harm's way. Jane puts her into the field of battle. Jane does whatever she can if it benefits her. And you know what else happens? Like in the third season, in the third season of the game, Clem has to be alone. So there are two scenarios where either Kenny dies, she's on her own, or Jane dies. When Kenny dies, he's teaching her how to drive, and she like spins out, and he like gets thrown from the car and tells her to go away with AJ, while he fends off the zombies, fends off the walkers all on his own. Like, he lets her make a clean getaway. He's selfless to the end. Jane, on the other hand, when she gets told she might be pregnant, she hangs herself. She leaves Clem behind. She is so selfish that she would just like leave this girl that she basically like took a new father figure away from purely to make a point. She is willing to leave her behind purely because she does not want to deal with something that was most likely the result of her own actions, getting pregnant. So yeah, Jane sucks. Jane will always suck, and you need to acknowledge that. Like, Jane is 100 times worse than Kenny, who has his issues, but is way better.
Not handled properly. And the whole game is building up to one final question of faithfulness. See,
it's not about faithfulness. Like I said, it's about choosing between old and new, or choosing for yourself to go out on a new way entirely.
In the first game, Lee made decisions on Clem's behalf, and she had no say in the matter. The second game begins shortly after the first, where Clementine makes her first painful stumble into the adult world. She gets Omid killed when she leaves her gun unattended. The player has no agency in this scene. You cannot help but leave the gun on the counter. For the first time, Clementine is directly responsible for a person's death, but she does not have the power to prevent it. The arc of the game is bringing her from there to here, where she has the power to get someone killed, recognition of that power, and the ability to choose who it will be. And all the seemingly muddled design is what happens between those two scenes. The moments where she can get someone killed but doesn't realize it, the moments where she thinks she can save someone but she can't. The game does not telegraph the difference between high and low level choices because Clem cannot yet recognize the difference. It's not a game about empowerment or disempowerment, but about the messy gray zone on the way from one to the other. It's a game about becoming Lee, about learning to make the choices he used to make. It's a game about growing up.
There are truths in this, but they're just muddled by absolute shit every once in a while. Kenny was flawed, but he tried, and that is all you can ask for. Yes. Honestly, my biggest problem with the game was how Jane wasn't developed as well as she should have been. It should have been difficult to choose between her or Kenny, but these suck so much. Yeah, I mean, like, Jane doesn't really have many attributes that you can hang on to, that you can really love about her. I mean, she's got the whole thing about, you know, she used to carry her sister with her, but at one point she stopped trying, and her sister got left behind. But, you know, that's just one thing. And also, it kind of comes off more malicious. Like, you think she might even be lying once you reflect on her actions over the rest of the game. I reckon Robot Shark would be more of an indie store than anything. Not sure what this is talking about. Walking Dead Season 1 is Telltale's flagship among Sam & Max and the Strong Bad games. I have never seen a good argument for Jane. It's just Kenny does this without even attempting to defend what Jane has done or said. Exactly. Exactly. You, sir, understand where I'm coming from.
Up too fast and under heightened circumstances, about lurching into adulthood as an act of self-preservation. The game's question is, in crossing that threshold, will Clementine recognize Kenny for what he is? Now, if we
what he is. Like, this is the one truth about Kenny.
Accept this as the game's premise, and acknowledge that it's handled with surprising maturity for a computer game about zombies, we still have to ask, what are the ramifications of asking this question? If the first game was about making you wonder whether you've done the right thing, the second game does something unthinkable if you either shoot Kenny or let him live but then abandon him.
Clem.
It's not saying that's exactly the right choice. It's a demonstration of Kenny's character in comparison to Jane. He's not talking about Jane at all, but it's very important that you acknowledge that as well, because that's when you understand the contrast.
You made the right choice. This is the right decision, Clem. You're right. Like you usually are.
Because Kenny respects your choices.
So the endings where Clementine is away from Kenny and he recognizes that he is a monster are the...
It's not that he's a monster. It's that she recognizes he is unstable. And that's like your choice to make, whether you consider him stable enough to keep going with. But at every step of the decision, decision-making process, Kenny is there supporting you 100% of the way. He cares about you, and that's something you get whenever you talk to him.
quote-unquote,
that's something you don't get from Jane.
Good endings. But there is still this equally canonical ending where the child watches her father figure murder the only other person looking out for her, and then...
Nah, she's not looking out for him. She's not looking out for her. She's looking out for herself. Jane deserved to die for the shit that she pulled.
Walks off into the wilderness happily ever after with her abuser, and there's
Her abuser? How is he her abuser?
Fair number of people insisting that this is their favorite ending. So if a game is going to pose a question this complicated, is it fair to treat both answers as equally valid?
Well, this is a question that you decided to pose that is not correct and doesn't look at the other side where it's choose between him, or choose with Jane. Or choose to go on your own.
And if we can make it through the game without even realizing it's a game about abuse, then is it actually saying anything about abuse? Or is abuse just a subject handled with, yes, honesty and sophistication, but in a game capable of engendering only empathy with and not understanding of abuse?
Or are you just dumb?
While empathy is a beautiful thing, and this game can give you a glimpse of what it might feel like on the shit end of an abusive relationship, isn't part of the problem with abuse that it makes people feel this way? If I get to the end of this game feeling nothing but sick, numb, and hopeless, is that an achievement?
Is he saying that Kenny is responsible for all of those feelings? Because I don't get that at all. I mean, Kenny brings some of the most uplifting moments in the game.
Is empathy enough? But I confess, the biggest issue I take is this. This is not my Kenny. Late in the game, Jane tells Kenny exactly what he is, and it's a perfect summation of how abuse works.
He loves having anyone around that does what he says. That's why he loves this kid so much. I can't talk back yet.
That's not correct. That's not a correct assertion, though. Jane sucks. I think we have all acknowledged that by now.
Fuck you. You know the thing about people like you, Kenny? You're just a bomb waiting to go off. Everyone talks about you behind your back because...
And how does she acknowledge this? By putting the child in danger. Wow, really good decision-making, Jane. Jane.
They're afraid of you.
That ain't
Mike,
true.
Bonnie, Sarita.
Fucking liar, that ain't true.
Everyone around you knows that sooner or later, they're gonna end up dead. Sarita knew it, I know it, and so does Clementine.
And that exactly describes the relationship he has with Clem in this game, but it's...
No.
It's not the relationship they had in the last game, nor is it the relationship he had to Lee, nor his wife, nor his son. Remember, Kenny was the guy who caved, who insisted he needed more control but ran away whenever confronted with it, who threatened people with violence but then when the time came to be violent, either backed down or burst into tears. Kenny's whole tragic flaw was being too weak to take action. It's why he blamed himself for his family's death and why his sacrifice to Ben meant something. So for us to accept that Kenny went from here to here, we have to accept that the pains and losses of the first game turned him into a monster.
He's not a monster. He's somebody that's unstable because of all the shit that he's been through, but that doesn't mean he's completely lost. It's just that some moments trigger him. They make him go into this state where it's like, it's very clearly not a place that he wants to go, but it's a place he feels he needs to. Well, not needs to, it's something that he can't necessarily control.
And
it's like this state, you know?
That is the broken narrative spit from the lips of 100,000 broken people. People who say, it's not me, it's just this awful world. People who say, if you'd lived my life, you'd probably be the same. People who say...
But Kenny doesn't say that. He doesn't try to make excuses for being the way that he is. You can see that he wants to be more than that. He wants to protect people. He wants to be there for them. But a lot of the time, people don't give him a chance. They don't take the time to see beneath the facade. Like Jane, she doesn't see beneath, not facade, but they don't see beneath the angry exterior. They're not willing to go any deeper. So they make this assumption that Kenny just must be this unstable person who can't function. And he is, like I said, he is unstable. It's a complex thing. He's not completely stable, but he also isn't a bad person. Like, you can tell that much is very much true.
Hey, if we could just get through this crisis, everything would go back to normal. It's the narrative abusers tell their victims. They say it's not their fault.
But Kenny doesn't abuse Clementine. He doesn't try to abuse her. He doesn't...
Trauma and abuse are not the same thing. And while trauma may be used by abusive people to justify being more abusive...
How is he abusive?
The one does not create the other where it didn't already exist.
Like you mention, you show Jane saying, like, Kenny, you just want everyone to agree with you, otherwise you go off on them. But that's not the case. And that's demonstrated by when you shoot him or when you choose to leave him. because Kenny respects your decision. It's directly contradictory to what Jane said, proving that she is full of shit. And you show this. You show this.
Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why they did it, why they used him. The whole question of loyalty depends on having some nostalgic memory for a time when things were better. That doesn't work with a new character. But accepting this Kenny, however well-intentioned, means believing that this is just the inescapable result of too much suffering. It means ignoring all the others who've suffered without acting so horribly and absolving him of his responsibility for how he treats Clementine.
I mean, how many families have you lost, Guy? I mean, I feel like it's pretty safe to say that Kenny is one of the people who's gone through some of the most suffering in the entire game because he's lost multiple people and he didn't want to acknowledge it. So he got a new family, and then that family got killed too. So he only has one connection left to it, and that's Clementine. She is the one connection left to his previous life. It's the one thing he can look back on and still see some shred of innocence, some shred of joy, some like comfortability that's not available at any other point in time, any other place in the world, because everything else has been taken from him. She is one of the only things left for him to care about other than AJ.
Cliched as it was, the Clem of Season 1 was our ray of hope for the future. One thing complicating our choices was trying to strike that balance. Can Clem learn to protect herself without becoming—
I can totally see Kenny going where he does. And, you know, he's not a perfect character by any means. It's not wrong to decide that he's too unstable to go along, but you have that choice. That's not the— He mentions shooting or not shooting as the only major option, but you get major options after that. You have the choice to abandon Kenny. You have the choice to go along with him. You have the choice, and they gave you multiple instances to opt out if you want. You can go to the structure. You can go out on your own. You can find the place and decide to go with Kenny anyway. You get multiple big choices at the end of the game, but he's only framing it around one that's important, when there are multiple after where you clearly have autonomy of your own.
Jaded? Or will the harshness of this reality cost her, for lack of a better word, her soul? Which becomes a stand-in for the soul of humanity, because if a child can't be raised to live in this world without losing hope, what chance does the rest of humanity have? But throughout Season 2, again and again, Clem is given opportunities to choose between hope and something other than hope. Whether or not to rob this stranger of his medical supplies, whether or not to ask this woman to stay with you, whether or not to convince this girl to save herself. And every single time she chooses to trust someone, she is punished for it with betrayal, abandonment, and death. There's
And he mentions the one time where you have a decision with Jane and she leaves you. Like, Jane sucks. We all need to acknowledge Jane sucks. I will preach it to the heavens.
no way to finish this game believing hope is anything other than a mistake except to stay loyal to Kenny, which even the designers seemingly don't want you to do. So what is our message? You can't trust anyone? Is the correct ending the one where Clem crosses that threshold into adulthood alone, finally able to survive without other people, and prepared to raise a baby by herself as yet another surrogate parent? This ending is the closest thing to uplift you're going to get without turning your stomach, and it's still a hard one. It's part of that disturbing trend making its way through video games right.
The ending of Walking Dead 2 is the first one that you openly choose. There are 3 different endings. Well, there are technically 5 different endings, depending on what you choose. But they all give you the choice to do them. You are allowed to decide how the story goes. It's up to you.
Right now, the one that says a female character only becomes strong by suffering at the hands of men. But it is an answer to the game's question. Who will be Clementine's new Lee? Clementine.
So there's another one. You can tell I was feeling the rage on that one. Notice how he hasn't even attempted to define what abuse is. Yeah, like I mentioned. And give a concrete example of Kenny doing or saying anything to coerce or harm Clem. We only hear other characters say Kenny is bad. Exactly. Because they don't know Kenny. They don't try to get to understand him. Jane, I'm going to show how dangerous this guy is to others by putting a baby in danger. Does this guy know what triggers are and why people have them? He gets upset and pissed with Clem, but he truly does love her. So I saw the nostalgia critic in the thumbnail, which got me wondering, did anyone see his review of The Wall? I think everyone saw his review of The Wall. Oh, got a $5 from Common Sense. I meant to type Crumb's wife. She forged his signature. Also, you saw the Disney TV script and pilot leak. You think it's worthy for your Disney XD video? I did see the pilot leak for all the Disney shows. That was pretty fucking wild there. But I'm probably not going to leave a video on it. Oh, I got another $5 from Common Sense from before. You went deep on American Pop. Did you know about Crumbs forged his signature for the Fritz the Cat movie? Is she the real a-hole? Also a recent visual novel? I mean, yeah, I did know that Crumb's wife forged his signature. Well, I'm not sure she forged his signature. She had power of attorney, but yeah, I mentioned that in the video. Let me see. Were there any other super chats? Super chat. Super chat. Got $5 from Cookie Mouse. Will you ever do a video on TV/movie adaptations of video games like you did for Wimpy Kid, Dr. Seuss, etc.? I don't know. Not sure about that. I mean, there aren't nearly as many usually when a game gets an adaptation, it's only like one. When I do the to adapt videos, I like them to be under a certain theme, so I don't know. Maybe at some point I might. Hey, this one's from Gamerboy8932, $5. Hey, I really enjoyed your analysis of Ralph Bakshi's filmography. Quick question. Did you play Persona 3 Reload? I couldn't help but notice the OST. I actually didn't use Persona 3 music in that video. That was Persona 4 music. I have not played Persona 3 Reload, but I do plan to at some point. I am a big fan of the Persona series, if you couldn't tell already from my music choices. The Walking Dead Season 2 is flawed, but I don't think How Kenny's written is it. Your choices matter. You didn't mention Ren and Stimpy Adult Party in Ralph Bakshi video. I don't see why I would. I mean, I know that John K. was under Ralph Bakshi, but I don't see how that would be related. You seem like a really cool and cool guy. I wish I could go to Momocon. Thank you. Could you do a video on Thief and the Cobbler? I thought about doing it, but at the same time, there are a lot of videos on it already, so I don't know if I could give a unique perspective on that. I don't know. Can you review all of WB's feature films? I have thought about doing that, actually. You know, there are interesting things to cover there. But, yeah, that was all I wanted to do for this video. See me at Momocon. That's the right way. That's the right direction to point at. Thank you all for watching. I had a good time. If this video doesn't stay up on the main channel, it will definitely be archived in a playlist on the second channel. Thank you all for watching,